All right. Good morning, evening. I don't know where you guys are. Sorry for getting on maybe a little bit late. I know that a lot of you guys have already started watching the coverage, which has apparently been very spotty, very glitchy. But it looks like it's a lot better now. We will also have Joe Tegmeyer joining us shortly. So I've sent him the link. I got some iced coffee because I'm a little bit tired. But of course, I can't miss this. And so could be a long night. I don't want to jinx anything, but we're finally getting a window that it looks like SpaceX is going to go for it, which is great. As I'm sure many of you know, this has been delayed for a while. It was supposed to go last month. And let's see what SpaceX is talking about right now.
And then also just doing some normal maintenance outside.
So what we're hearing is that in a lot of ways, you had to be a jack of all trades out there, an astronaut, a mechanic, a scientist, handyman, all wrapped into one. Is that a good way to describe it?
Yeah, sure. A jack of all trades with a heck of a view.
Yeah, that must be pretty incredible, Mike. But changing gears a bit here, the Polaris Dawn crew will attempt to fly higher than any Dragon mission to date. At 1,400 kilometers, this would be the highest altitude orbit for a crewed spacecraft, breaking the record set by Gemini 11 and a half a century ago.
Okay, so I'm going to mute that. Hey, Joe, how's it going?
Hello, how you doing?
Man, we're so used to getting up early, and now we have to stay up late. Oh, no.
I know. And the funny thing is in a few hours, I have a dental appointment.
Oh, my gosh. No way.
That's
Nope.
Okay.
I'm going to sleep in. I'm going to skip something because no way. A little bit worried. And here it is. It's glitching again. It just did a little glitch. So, the feed has certainly been an issue. I am running this off of SpaceX.com, but it has the same amount of viewers. I'm not sure if it's the same X feed. So
I think it actually is, but for whatever reason, knock on wood, it's working for the moment.
Yeah.
But
it's
X has got to get fixed.
Totally. Yeah, no, it's I know that when Elon did that X space with Trump not too long ago, it was like took like an hour or something
Right.
to actually work. So for something this monumental, we want it to work. Yeah. Where are you guys watching from tonight or this morning? As many of us know, this has been quite a game of weather and waiting for the right weather window. I know that the team was ready to go last month.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tough because not only do they have to make it work on the way up, but also on the way down.
Right. Well, it's not like they can go to the ISS or hang out for very long because they have only so much food and oxygen and water. So that puts a big constraint. And for whatever reason, the weather patterns out on the Atlantic has not been typical right now.
Yeah, I think Felix Spacetime, who is from the UK, it looks like he was able to stay because he was one of Jared's guests. And I know a lot of people had to leave. And so I feel bad for the people that, weren't able to stay. Thank you, Pamela, for the super sticker. We have Indigo checking in from Texas. We have Rathlin from Ireland, or Rathlin. Shepard from Oregon, Ross is on holiday in Andorra. And so right now, we have over an hour and 20 minutes. So we figured that, well, first we thought the SpaceX feed was still glitching, but we figured some of you guys would still want to talk to us, hang out with us. We'll switch back and forth listening to what they have to say. One of the things, I was saying before you got on is I just, got some iced coffee in this cup. For the crew, how are they going to split up the sleeping arrangements? How does all of that work? Because we mentioned they're not going to the ISS.
Right. I think they probably have some shifts, and they'll most likely use their seats that they're going up right now anyway. They'll just strap in and sleep during those periods of time. But also, this mission has got a lot of milestones that they've got to hit. And it's everything from doing science experiments to probably doing some sort of communication kind of things. I think at one point, Anna is going to be reading a book, and so they'll be doing those things. Plus, they have to start getting ready for the spacewalk. And one of the things that they're developing with this particular mission is trying to figure out how to do the sort of the pre-breathing to eliminate a lot of that nitrogen out of the system so that they don't have the potential of having the bends when they do the spacewalk. So that's going to be taking they're going to try to do that over a longer period of time and gradually change the mixture of the gases and try to get that taken care of so that they can minimize the time that they have to have, get the suits and get ready to go out so they could do the maximum amount of time while they're doing the spacewalk. So they're testing all that out. Plus, they're also testing out different pressures within the spacesuit as well. And I think they may be eventually going to 100% oxygen. And there was some talk about they learned a lesson on that. It kind of goes back to Apollo 1, and that is with 100% oxygen, it's kind of a flammable mixture. And they had some potential static electricity issues that they had to mitigate to let that happen. So they're doing a lot, and that's going to take a lot of their time. So, there will be some scheduled time for sleeping, but it's going to be busy for the moment they get into orbit.
Right. I mean, I was going to say, they probably have so much adrenaline going right now. They don't need sleep right now, but a couple hours ago, I was like, oh man, it's, we could be in for a long night.
Yeah. It is important to note that there's a 4-hour window that they could be launching at, and it's about every 2 hours starting at 2:38 Central Time, which is 7:38 UTC. And then about if they can't hit that one, and it's about 2 hours later, and then 2 hours later. So depending on how things go, we could be here for a long time. There is still some weather concerns for the launch. I think the last time I heard John Innsbrucker was on the SpaceX feed saying it was about a 60% chance of a violation. And I've heard some people that are on site there saying that there may be some lightning around the area. So we're going to have to see what happens. But I also think that, safety is going to be important, but SpaceX is really going to try to push them as far as they can into the countdown. They want to get this launched so that, obviously that's a priority. They also have some constraints. It's almost like when we were talking about the Starliner and if it got stuck or not, or they changed things, how it affects the schedule down the road. And in this particular case, this launch pad is slated for the Falcon Heavy with the Europa Clipper. And they're going to need that launch pad pretty soon to start getting ready for that. So, this mission kind of needs to go, or it's going to be a very long delay.
Yeah, I was just about to say, they they have a deadline, really. I mean, this is not their exclusive pad.
Right, exactly.
Let's see. Let me unmute this just for a second. What is
very special memories captured in a very endearing cat in the hat book.
I'm going to bring this big hunk of metal that will go higher than anyone has ever flown in Earth orbit.
I'd love to be able to have some sort of a memorabilia for everyone who contributes to this, of which it's pretty hard because there's 10,000 plus SpaceXers. I guess I wish I could bring something for everyone who's made a difference in this program.
I will, in particular, get to read this story from space to my kids here on Earth, as well as some of the brave kids of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. And I think that connection moment while I'm up there floating in space is something I'm just really excited to have the opportunity to have.
And we actually have something super cool here with us, a copy of Kisses from Space.
All right, so they're promoting the book. That's great. Wow, I mean, that just gives me goosebumps. And what's so cool is that Anna and Sarah work for SpaceX.
Well, not only do they work for SpaceX, but they're the ones that have been responsible for training the astronauts. So I think this is great for them because in the future, after this mission is done, they can speak from experience.
Right, exactly. I'm gonna send like Jonathan McDowell. I'm gonna see if he wants to pop on for a little bit. Just just in case, because we're gonna be here for a bit. But yeah.
Well, as far as the time or the countdown, the next big milestone happens about 45 minutes before launch. So about 30 minutes from now, and that's when they would give the go for propellant loading. But before that, they'll do a last big weather check and decide if they want to go or not. And part of the reason for that is once they start doing the filling of the propellants, then it starts locking them into a specific time. So they're going to be very cautious on that before they make the decision to go ahead and start filling the propellant. So 30 minutes is probably the next big, maybe a little less than 30 minutes to be the next big milestone that we'll be looking for.
Yeah. And this is just such an incredibly ambitious mission. I mean, they're like, even just the private commercial spacewalk already on its own would be enough to make it a truly phenomenal mission. But they're fitting in so much.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's kind of interesting. A lot of the stuff that they're doing is basically testing out procedures or equipment or how they're going to operate for when the Starship is going to be used for either taking the astronauts to the moon or going to Mars. You know, we just recently heard Elon talking about possibly start launching towards Mars unmanned in a couple of years, and maybe 4 years people. So a lot of the stuff that Polaris Dawn is going to be doing is setting the stage for that. And it's everything from that pre-breathing so that they can figure out how best to be prepared to put the suits on and go do work. For example, if there were a moon base, you wouldn't want to spend your 8-hour workday with 5 hours of it just pre-breathing or so. So they want to maximize the time out of the station to go do your work. So this is setting the stage for that. Plus, you know, the spacesuits as well. They're going to be going up pretty high in altitude. They'll be, at least for a period of time, in the Van Allen radiation belts. And that's not only just testing out what happens to people, but also a lot of the technology, the electronics could be affected by radiation. And it's probably very similar to what they'd be using for Starship. So this is a great way for them to test and see how the electronics work in that environment.
And do you think that, you know, because we've talked about that, or that's one of the sort of talking points, are they going to be putting themselves sort of in danger health-wise?
I think that the period of time that they're going to be there is relatively short. So, I don't think it's going to be, extreme or anything. They're going to go up to about 1,400 kilometers in altitude, but that's at the apogee, the highest part. The lowest part, the perigee, is only going to be about 200 kilometers or so. So there's only going to be a period of time, probably half an orbit, where they're in that range, and then they'll be back below. So, I think it's a good test, but it's not going to be sitting there orbiting constantly in the Van Allen radiation belts. And then when they finish that, they'll lower the orbit back down to about 700 kilometers so they can do the spacewalk.
Well, Ross says SpaceX has announced that Crew Dragon Resilience will do 6 orbits at an apogee of 1,400 kilometers.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, then 6 of the orbits, half of the orbits will be at that altitude. The rest will be below. So it'll be pretty cool to see how that works out. But I'm sure they're going to get a lot of data, not only just on the people, but all of the systems that are inside the Crew Dragon, computers, the avionics, all that stuff is going to be tested for that.
Right.
And the Dragon's never gone that high before. No SpaceX, ship or capsule or anything has gone that high. So this is a great test for them.
Well, and just an aside to us here in Texas, Mitchell writes, testing Starlink laser links from a moving spacecraft at 17,000 miles per hour. And Starlink announced today that here in Bastrop, Texas, they made 1 million Starlink kits, which is a pretty big milestone.
Yeah, well, they've made those 1 million in about 8 months worth of operation, because they just started that factory working early this year.
That's
and in addition to that, I just put out some new images that were just taken, but they're expanding the facility. It looks like it's going to be double in the size. So the original one was about 500 and I think it was 530 square feet in size. So this is going to potentially double that in size. So over 1 million square feet.
Wow. We still need to get a tour.
Yeah, I know. I've talked to some people that work there and they say they're not really doing tours. They do some friends and family type stuff, but it's, you know, no pictures, no cameras, no video, nothing.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting. Oh, it just started to pause for a second. Oh,
yeah.
Jinxing it. It just started to pause again. You know what? I'm going to share a screen just so that we have backup in case we want to look on X.
Okay.
But let's see here.
Well, the closer we get to the actual launch, more people are going to log on. So hopefully they've got.
I know it's, you know, it's not great having this issue. I understand wanting to use the platform X exclusively, but if it can't handle all the people, you know, this kind of sucks because go back to YouTube, right? Or have two options.
Yeah. Well, if you want to be a YouTube fighter, you need to have a system that's at least as good.
Yeah, right. Well, let's see. Polaris has posted a lot of stuff. A lot of the stuff they're posting actually is just videos that they've been playing.
Yeah, I think that they've got it, you know, they obviously have a script that they're going through and they have pre-canned stuff that they're sending out. It was kind of frustrating to me because they would send out a post saying, you know, hey, we just talked about kid and flying F-16s. And the actual video was frozen.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it was really glitching bad earlier. So I was like, Joe, we got to hop on and at least, you know, hang out with them and give them something to talk about.
Yeah.
SpaceX has been having issues all evening and hopefully not, you know, any other issues. Indigo says it's 2024 and YouTube can't make subtitles a part of live streams. Yeah, those are generated after the fact. So I'm sorry about that. I've had a few people complain about it. Sethia says it's like a freeway. If you don't have enough lanes, you'll wind up with congestion. That's right.
That is true. That is true. It is, in a way, it's kind of cool that so many people are interested in this.
Right.
I like that as a space fan. And I mean, that's one of the things that you're doing with your channel is to try to get people knowledgeable and enthusiastic about space. And the fact that they're crashing an X feed on this is a great thing.
Exactly. I mean, it looks like how many people are watching? 392,000 viewers on their feed.
Right,
Certainly not on ours. Can you imagine? I was kind of like, why am I even going live? I feel like everyone's going to be watching theirs, but you never know. Let me share with you just some photos here of them arriving. Polaris Dawn crew suits up for launch and arrives at pad 39A, and we see those new suits looking slick.
SpaceX certainly does know how to make spacesuits look very futuristic.
Yeah, super cool. And of course, we have Tesla Model X as well.
Mm-hmm. That seems like the perfect car for this because of those gull-wing doors. It's easy to get in and out with that suit on.
Yeah, and it just looks really cool. Come on, let's be honest. Oh my gosh, you see
how
a Tesla.
Excited they are.
I know. Tesla supercharger in the background. That's great.
Yeah.
And there they are on their, you know, vehicle. No big deal.
You know, actually, what's an interesting thing is normally when they go out, the tradition is that they kind of do a lean back looking up at the rocket. But I guess there's pretty good mobility in this particular suit is they didn't seem to have to lean back as much as we've seen in the past. And that's part of the design of the suit is it's very flexible until it's pressurized. And then when it's pressurized, then it becomes more rigid. But in this state here, they seem to have a lot of mobility, which is really encouraging to think, because if we're going to have thousands of people going into space wearing spacesuits, you want to have people have good mobility.
Oh, yeah.
If you had to walk around like this all the time, that would not work out.
No way. Sethia, thank you. Sethia says, I'd rather watch with y'all. Feels more like a community. I was stoked when the notification popped up saying you were streaming this. I'm so glad that you guys enjoy it. Ross agrees. We want to hang out with Ellie and Joe. So we'll try to entertain you. We'll try to switch back and forth. Looks like they're still just kind of doing some commentating, nothing different. So let's see here. Let's look at these headshots. Jared looks pretty happy. And that's
Anna.
Anna. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
She's the one with the book.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's interesting that these suits are meant to be able to go out into space, and just look at how those visors just sort of click down, and then I would imagine that the rubber seal probably inflates to give them a good, seal, but it's pretty interesting that and then now you can go out in space.
They look so like minimalistic, they're very simple. It's kind of crazy that those are, that is crazy. Yeah, thank you guys. I'm just trying to see if I can. Yeah, so here's some
extravehicular activity suit, which is
the suit. Oh, here we go.
To do a spacewalk. We started with the IVA suit that we have, the intravehicular activity suit, as a kind of starting point, and looked at it and said, what would we have to change about this to be able to support a spacewalk? So the first is mobility. The crew will have to do a lot of moving around inside of Dragon to get outside and do the spacewalk. We had to add in new joints and new features in the suit to allow them enhanced mobility while the suit's pressurized.
When a crew member is pressurized in the suit, the soft portions of the suit become rigid. They need actual flexure and rotational joints to allow them to move around. It's kind of like a suit of armor made of fabric. We innovated in flexure joints to allow easy bending at the elbows and the knees, as well as a collapsible rotator joint that exists on the shoulder, which allows the suit to remain nearly fully soft, but when pressurized is a rotational bearing.
I mean, Joe, you have more, background and sort of history with this. Just tell me how more mobile this suit just even looks.
Well, it looks, it looks pretty mobile, and the way that they're doing that is like in this shoulder joint, there's probably kind of around your shoulder here is some sort of a bearing, and that allows it to rotate. And they have one that sounds like it was right around the elbow as well. And then I think that the glove is probably just free flowing. I don't think there's one down there. And then it sounds like they do the same a little bit lower, maybe on your legs, maybe around the hips. But that allows you to do that twisting and the movement. But you'll notice that they don't do this. They have to do it like this because it only has 1 degree of motion. But it looks pretty good to me. Sort of something I've been wondering as spacesuit design continues to be iterated, and this is, version 1 of what they're going to be iterating over time, is right now, most of the spacesuits, all the spacesuits that I've seen are basically bags that you get into, and then the whole thing pressurizes. I wonder if someday that they can get away from that and not necessarily, think of like a scuba suit, do you really need to have pressure around your legs? Or if you had a scuba suit that, was right against your body, do you need to pressurize that? And if you get away with that, maybe you could have more mobility. And I think I've seen a kind of a prototype once. Actually, Jordan from Angry Astronaut a long time ago showed a design of that. And it looked kind of like a scuba suit. So the only real place that was pressurized was right around your head.
Wow.
And if you do that, you can get rid of all those joints and stuff like that. But
well, let's pop in on the SpaceX feed, see what they're talking about.
No one has ever flown a laser communication system on a human-rated spacecraft before, so there is a lot to be learned here. If this works, Plug and Placer could provide the first high-speed internet experience for people traveling in space.
This technology will also help here on Earth by facilitating healthcare access and connectivity to underserved communities around the world. The Polaris program is donating Starlink to St. Jude Global Partners in 5 countries. Strong, reliable internet will help support the St. Jude Global mission by providing partners greater access to online medical conferencing, case and imaging sharing, and diagnostic assistance. Hospitals and foundations that are part of the pilot program will be able to provide better care to patients thanks to high-speed, low-latency broadband internet.
The first countries selected to receive Starlink include the Philippines, Brazil, Chile, Peru, and Mozambique. The Polaris team is also donating Starlink to 100 schools in Chile and Brazil, striving to increase internet connectivity, which can improve education and telemedicine efforts for communities in need. The Polaris Dawn crew had a chance to hear from students in Chile after Starlink was installed.
¿Por qué los hombres van al espacio?
It's so important to go to space because there is so much of it and we know so little about it. How many of you would like to be an astronaut someday? There we go.
Wow, this is so sweet.
It is pretty cool. Of course, they are also pointing out that they've been helping Brazil out with Starlinks, and there's that current political issue going on right now with not only X but also with Brazil seizing SpaceX property. So hopefully they'll be able to get that resolved soon. But yeah, this is interesting, that laser thing that they're trying to test out with Polaris Dawn. You know, it's something it needs to be very stable in its connection. So if they do thrusters, it could affect that connection. And also it's trying to connect with satellites that are both above and below where they're going to be in their orbit. So that's going to be interesting too, is that it has to take into account that changing orbit. But again, I think this is testing for future starships. Because they're going to be able to they will definitely need to have this capability to be able to communicate when they're on the moon, going to Mars, that kind of thing. You can almost imagine you had a fleet of ships heading to Mars, and having a laser connectivity would be very helpful as well.
Yeah, and here they're showing some Starship footage. T-minus 1 hour until the first launch opportunity.
Right. So we are getting close to where they're going to do probably another really serious weather check and decide whether they're going to proceed for the initial fueling in about 15 minutes. So we're getting close to getting a feel for if this first launch window is going to happen or not.
Yeah, I don't want to jinx it, but do you think it will?
It's I don't know. It's you're always hoping for a window in the weather that's just at the right time. And it sounded like earlier on the weather on the ground and in altitude, the winds at the ground and altitude were okay. It was mostly rain and the clouds. So if you get an open spot there, the rest of the world, it sounded like, was fine as far as the weather for their aborts and the direction that they're going. So if they can just get that little window in time, they should be able to launch.
Well, Joe, you know me pretty well. You know what I would be thinking if I were sitting there? That I had to pee. I had to go to the bathroom. I don't know if I'm cut out for this. I mean, what do you think is going on through their head right now?
I don't know. I mean, they look like they're busy with their pads or so, but I think that because they've been so much training and you kind of know what's going to happen, and at least if it were me, having been a pilot and gone through stuff like this before, as I'm always aware of what time it is and about at this time, this should be happening. Mm-hmm. And at this time, that should be happening. And I kind of, you expect that to happen. Like I should be getting a message from the core soon, and it comes in and like, okay, so that's right on time. So to me, it would just be going into that process that you've already trained and, just focusing on what's happening. And now we're within an hour or about an hour or so. So you're getting to the point where things are actually going to start happening. So, I think they'll be focused on that.
That's got to be the craziest feeling. I mean, Jared's already done it, but like for Anna and Sarah, I mean, I can't imagine the anticipation.
Yeah, and kid too. I mean, none of them have been into space. It's very, very different. And as soon as you light those engines, it's like you're on a ride.
This is funny. I Irie says they are playing Angry Birds.
Oh, okay.
I don't think so. Mitchell says hopefully they haven't had any liquids for several hours. I mean, if they had to go pee, they have a diaper, right?
Well, yeah. It's one of those things where you have that ability, but you don't want to use it if you can avoid it.
Oh, I am certainly not cut out for this. Like I think, yeah, wow. That's a long time to hold it. I mean, when is their first opportunity once they launch?
Probably within an hour after achieving orbit. There's a few things that they've got to do to make sure they're in a stable orbit and everything, all the systems are working and that kind of stuff. And then they'll get to the point where they're able to doff or remove their spacesuits, and that would be the opportunity. So, we're an hour from launch plus another hour after that, an hour and a half. So about 2.5 more hours.
No way. No way. Oh my gosh. That's the thing is like, I'm sure a lot of people on my channel do realize this, but I think like for, the outside world, the general public, they don't understand that this is not exactly like a comfortable experience,
Yeah.
It's like everything from the sleep situation to bathroom to just, I'm sure it's not super comfortable in their suits. This is like, this is hard work and it's courageous. It's brave what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, SpaceX has made it so far looking like it's pretty routine, but it's rockets, so it's never 100% routine. You can't have any complacency. You can't take anything for granted. That's why they do so much training. And you were asking, what are they thinking about right now? Is they're probably thinking about, okay, we're at these particular milestones and mile points, and that's what they're looking at. And I think that's a good thing to have because it keeps your mind focused on what you're doing and not thinking about, wow, I'm sitting on, lots of fuel.
Well, yeah.
And, one of the things that the Falcon 9 and the Dragon does differently than pretty much all the other crewed launched vehicles is they put the crew in first and then they fill. So the crew is on board as that is being filled up. So,
And this is the first time they've actually been in the seats suited up, correct?
They've done dry or
Well, no, for like an actual, because the other like launch attempts, they didn't even get close to like getting suited up, right?
No, but they did do dry rehearsals where they went through everything all the way up to T0. So they went through that process of getting the suits on, walking out and all that stuff. So
right. I'm just saying this is the first, like, because we, they were going to, but then there was that ground side helium leak, and then they were going to a different day, and then there was the weather being an issue. So this is really their first, like, okay, we're going to do it.
Right. This is the first time where the engines could actually light.
Woo! That's
so as you follow along and you think about, okay, we're at these milestones and this is what's happening and their training kicks in, that'll work great until they get like T-minus 10, 9, and then you're realizing, hey, they actually could light these things.
Right.
It's very different. It's kind of the difference between flying a real plane and flying a simulator. Simulator is cool, but you always know you're going to walk away.
Yeah, Sethia says the filling process is what would scare me the most about launch day. I mean, it's interesting. I'm reading Re-Entry, which is the sequel to Liftoff, and I'm going to be interviewing Eric Berger this weekend in Houston. So if anyone has any questions for him, let me know. But it's great. This is, the story sequel to Liftoff. So this is actually about the Falcon 9 journey. And that's, of course, what Polaris Dawn is launching on tonight, a Falcon 9. And it's really great. So I highly recommend it. This comes out September 24th. You can pre-order it on Amazon. And I'm not making any money off saying that. It's like, if you're into the SpaceX story, this will give you some, really good anecdotal sort of stories that you wouldn't otherwise know. You'll meet characters, that are behind the SpaceX story. A lot of people that have quit and then were rehired and then quit again because the demands of working for SpaceX are insane. Yeah.
Good. Well, book. I mean, besides the technical challenges that they're working on to try to be able to meet their mission goals and all that, the time frames that they are trying to do it in is what really is kind of, I don't know, draining on you, because a lot of the other companies out there that have done space type stuff, they build a rocket and they may launch it in 10 or 15 years, and that works for them. But SpaceX is, like Elon just said, whether it could happen or not, we could look at the technical things that they have to achieve. But if they're going to launch or a couple of Starships to try to land on Mars in 2 years, that's like taking something that would normally be a 10-year program and shrinking it down to about 2 from where they're at right now. So a lot has to be achieved. And in addition to their plans on going to Mars, they're also trying to build something to land on the moon for NASA. And if you think about, we talked about the Artemis 3 mission where they would be taking the astronauts and landing them on the moon. And the current plan is about September of 2026. If you back everything up from that point to where we are today, one of the biggest things that they're going to have to do is they have to prove that they can do, on-orbit refilling, which means that they're going to have that capability built, tested, and the stuff up there to be able to do that. And they also have to do, as part of their contract with NASA, a demo landing on the moon. And that would have to take place probably early 2026-ish, maybe by the spring of 2026, so that they could be prepared for that September 26. So, that's not very long. We're at the end of 2024, so they have not even 18 months to be able to get to that point. So
let's check in and see. It sounds like there might be a go, no go.
And the weather 5 days from now to make sure that there is a viable path for safe crew return when their mission is done. So it's a lot going on.
Yeah, there's a lot to look out for. And again, we are trying to make this call prior to propellant loading starting on the vehicles. That will be important for us to be able to hold if we decide to go to the additional T0 opportunities that we have. We'd like to make that call before we start loading propellant.
Right.
Exactly.
So
we're now
to
T-minus 48 minutes. We are standing by for the final update from the launch weather officer. We're hoping that we get the okay to proceed into
let's keep our fingers crossed.
Load. This is such a great view. It reminds me of Tron, really. This view with the crew access arm illuminated from the interior. I love daytime launches, but there is something even more futuristic about the nighttime launches.
Operators proceed with 18.85 propellant load go no go poll.
Here's the poll.
And just a quick note, launch director telling the team to proceed with the go no go poll. Car's going to talk to crew now.
I'm listening.
Here we go. What do you think?
SpaceX for weather update.
Yes? No?
I don't know.
Go SpaceX.
Dragon, we're still watching weather. It seems that the T01 opportunity is going to have the best chance of getting us to a launch today. So we're going to be pressing into the propellant load.
All right.
So yes, right? They're going to go?
There's 3 different launch opportunities.
And copy that, SpaceX. And just for good readback, we are presently no go for weather, but we are stepping into the prop load poll.
This is so stressful. Oh my God. It's freaking me out.
Jared's asking the same question we're trying to work through right now.
And stand by, Dragon. We're just confirming.
What I think they said is that of the 3 launch opportunities, the first one is the one that's the most viable. And because of that, they're going to go ahead and start propellant loading, which means they're committed to the first launch opportunity. That's what I think they said.
I can't help but get nervous. It's just, there's 4 lives. Okay. And I know Jared. I met him twice. I mean,
yeah, we're coming up on T-minus 46 minutes. They've made a determination to continue on, betting that the weather will be go in 46 minutes from now. We heard Core bring it up with the crew briefly. We're waiting now for the directions from the launch director to the launch team for the readiness for propellant load and launch pole.
Checking Weather Channel.
Currently, they are continuing to talk with the launch weather officer, but it looks like if you look at the upcoming T0 or the next one in about 100 minutes, it's about an equal opportunity. So we're going to move into propellant load, it appears.
Wow. Okay.
Now, right now, the launch director should be polling electronically
we got one more radar scan. We're
the
evaluating this radar scan.
7
We'll
members.
get back here.
Okay. Well, you're gonna have to make the decision pretty.
SpaceX, we're standing by.
Yeah, it's a big deal because if they commit to this, then they basically say this.
There's some discussion on the weather net about a cell to the northwest and whether or not it's exceeding constraints.
Oh my gosh, this weather in Florida, get it together. Wow.
Electronic poll has been completed. If we do continue with the countdown,
Dragon SpaceX, we're getting meteorological input that we should waive this attempt given the last radar scan. So we're going to pause the clock here and move to our second T0.
Okay.
Wow.
So we have a 2 hour and 45-minute wait now.
Copy that, SpaceX, and we are standing by for the second T0.
So do they get to get out and go to the bathroom now?
No.
we're at T-minus 44 minutes and
Wait.
30 seconds, and we have paused the clock for the moment.
We
got a last-minute update. One cell right at around the 10 nautical mile border had popped up on the radar returns. We have to get all the weather clear within 10 nautical miles of the launch pad in order to be able to launch Falcon 9 with the crew on the Dragon.
Oh my
Probably
God.
The weather was iffy. If it would clear in time for the original T0.
2349 UTC.
Okay, so it's going to reset to about 2 hours and 40 minutes or so. But yeah, I mean, the door is already shut and sealed, so you can't just get out.
Oh my God.
And then if it slips again, they have 2 more hours, so it could be.
No, that's a nightmare. Oh my gosh. All right, let's start reading reentry.
You know, when I was flying, one of the things we used to joke is that we were all issued something called an ERB, which is the extended range bladder.
Oh my God, dude, that sucks. Okay, is it gonna go tonight or this morning?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, they originally when they first said that, they said of the 3 opportunities, the first one was the best, which suggests to me that they're looking at the weather getting worse. But you know,
he said that the second one actually looked similar to the first in that last bit. So,
well, yeah, just based on the conversation they had back and forth, they're just looking at it, and it's either as good as it is now, or it's going to get worse over time, is what it sounds like to me.
Okay, so if it gets worse, they'll call it sooner, right?
Probably, but I think keeping in mind that they want to keep it safe and crew safety is paramount. I think they're also looking at this may be their best chance to get this mission going.
Yeah.
Given the landing weather forecast, without having to scrap this completely and then have to go after the Europa Clipper. So I think because of that, they're going to try to press as much as they can. At the very worst is this is giving them a great dry rehearsal again and getting them completely up to speed again after a few weeks of sitting around. So,
well, why don't we answer this question? Why is the weather such a factor? Planes can still fly through storm cells. Why not spacecraft?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of factors that you have to take into account. One of which is lightning and spacecraft are not great companions. And if you have cells like they're talking about there, there's potential for lightning hazard as they are launching. And that's something you want to avoid. The other thing that possibly could happen is you can get upper level wind shear, and rockets are really great if they have axial loading, but if they start getting wind shear, then it has the tendency of not only upsetting the rocket, but it could overstress the rocket as well.
Right. And Christopher writes, the real problem is when they leave the pad, they need to stay pointed in the right direction up.
Yeah. The pointing in the right direction is important, but it's really more of the stresses on the spacecraft. And like I said, as long as the stresses are axially through the length of the spacecraft, that's what it's designed for. And we hear about max Q and everything, it's talking about this way. But if we start getting shear where it's moving the rocket this way, you can overstress the rocket itself, and that's not what it's designed for. So they want to minimize that. So,
well, Indigo wants to know, and you just confirmed my worst nightmare. Do they egress or stay strapped in? They're strapped in, baby.
You're in there until either you launch or they open the door.
Oh, that sounds like a nightmare. Sounds like a nightmare.
Think of the great training Anna and Sarah are getting so that they can advise future astronauts on what it's going to be like.
I mean, my bladder would just away. Like, seriously, I feel so bad for them, because it's just, that's like even the 0G flight. The 0G flight was like 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I like took the absolute last possible opportunity to go to the bathroom. And I was so worried about it, like the whole flight, because there's no bathroom. There's no bathroom on 0G.
So you're saying that right now, Sarah, Anna, Kid, and Jared are regretting their big gulp drink that they just had before they walked out?
I don't know. I would just pee in my pants.
Remember when you interviewed Jared about that, he said something like, when you got to go, you got to go.
I'd be going. I would be going. Okay, so damn. Okay, so we have like almost 2.5 hours. Oh no. What the hell are we gonna do? Oh my gosh. Wow. Lots of rain cells popping up just off the KSC coast.
Yeah.
Is there like a good weather thing that we can pull up? What should I pull up, Joe?
I don't know. You could try either the Weather Channel or Weather Underground and see if there's a radar that you can take a look at. Let's see.
Let us see. I thought you'd have like a go-to. I don't.
Well, I use Weather Underground a lot.
Can you share your screen?
I don't know. Let's see. Let me see if I can bring it up first.
Okay. Well, what are you guys going to do? Are you going to hang out with us for 2.5 hours? Yeah, Bob says, I would worry more about getting a cramp sitting for that long and not being able to move. Absolutely. I'm like constantly like, I sit on my feet and then I move my legs around because my knee starts to hurt. Yeah, I mean, like I said, what they're doing is not exactly glamorous. Christopher said when we would fly 17-hour flights, we would eat low output meals like steak and eggs so we wouldn't have to poo.
Yep. That was always the goal, is never have to use that.
Well, Douglas agrees with me. He says he sympathizes with the bladder problems. Yeah, I mean, wow. I just going to space doesn't seem like it's in the cards for me as of yet.
Yeah, I don't know if this will work or not. I'll see if I can share the screen.
I should be able to see you like at it. There you go.
Okay.
There we go.
It's not, unfortunately, it's not huge, but you can see right off Cape Canaveral there what's going on.
Can you like scroll in on the page or no?
Let me see if I can do it this way.
See, I have a trackpad. Did you know, Joe? Fun fact for everyone in the chat, since we have all this time together, I edit on my MacBook, and I edit with a trackpad.
Oh, really?
Yes. I do all my editing with a trackpad. When I first did it, I was like, this is crazy. This is way too hard. Like, it's kind of crazy that I've been able to adjust to it. And I edit fast. Anyway, okay, so
that's what the radar looks like right now.
Ooh, damn.
It kind of looks like it's clearing off, but I don't know what the distance is out. And they were talking about 10 miles when flying, when you're in aviation, 10 miles is kind of the distance that you want, if at least a minimum, if there's going to be lightning. So I don't know how much that is, but that's what that's kind of looking like. And if I can, let me see if I can scroll this down a little bit more. That's what it's saying. Is tonight mostly cloudy, low, 20% precipitation, and then 24% tomorrow. So
okay.
But anyway, so that's what it's looking like right now.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and man, you're correct. It's now the 5. What was it? 23 or something like that was the time.
Oh my God. Okay. The Legacy says, does the toilet on the Dragon require a lack of gravity to work? If not, are they able to use it while waiting?
They won't be able to use it while waiting. They'll have to, because they can't get out of their spacesuits. So it'll be the spacesuit diaper.
Wow.
Let's see.
I would use that diaper. I would probably fill it up.
But you know what? Guess who gets to clean it?
Me.
Yep.
The later it gets, the more honest I'm gonna get. It might be scary.
Okay. Let's see.
Tin Man says we're hanging. Tin Man, we're gonna stay here. If you're gonna stay here, we'll pop back and forth. I did extend an invitation to a few people on X. So I wanted to show you guys this. This is kind of interesting. Jason shared this earlier. Dragon is outfitted with Skywalker, which is designed to help the crew perform a series of suit tests during their spacewalk. So this is a cool photo of it. And then Cyber Mike shared, this is an example of how that Skywalker will work.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool to see.
Yeah, well, that not only is it something that they use for the spacewalk, and it'll help them, have something to hold on to, and then when they get most of the way out, hold their feet. But because they put that in, that's one of the reasons why, even if they could work out the orbital mechanics, that's why they can't go to the space station and dock. There is no docking mechanism. So both orbital mechanics and the reality of no docking mechanism is preventing them from having that option. And that's one of the reasons why weather, especially for the splashdown 5 days from now, is so important, is that it's really just the Dragon by itself. And as long as it can, sustain the people, then they have to come back.
Well, I mean, let's say they think the weather looks favorable 5 days from now for the return, but let's say something happens unexpected. What are their options?
I'm sure that they probably have a day or two extra. So, a couple of the options could be, they're going to be monitoring the weather the entire time. So maybe 2 or 3 days into it, they realize it's going to be really bad on the 5th, 6th, and 7th day. They may terminate it early and bring them back early. Or if it looks like it's going to be bad on the 4th or 5th day, they may extend it a day. But at some point, they're going to have to make that choice and come back. The ironic thing is SpaceX is going to be moving their Dragon splashdown operations to the West Coast sometime next year. And that's because they were having trouble with the trunk after they separate to come back in, and the trunk was crashing down some parts of Australia. So to mitigate that, they're going to have the Dragon splash down off the West Coast and have the trunk come down into the Pacific Ocean.
Oh, wow. Are you sick?
I just have a dry throat.
Oh man.
Sorry about that. I'm dying here.
Oh my God.
But if they were splashing down on the West Coast, they would have no problem with the weather.
Right. Ah, well, that's interesting.
Excuse me.
Let's see what let's give you a break and let's see what they have to say.
Is happening. And it brings me back to my Air Force and fighter pilot experience in combat. Compartmentalizing what's going on, being very acute to every little detail. Throughout this entire training process, we have these aha moments. And when I have these aha moments, I think about what it's going to be like when it is liftoff. And I think I will be in that very intense moment of being aware of all the details around me, all the senses, watching all the parameters of the rocket, staying very focused on the mission. You know, I'm not nervous. I'm intensely excited for this moment. I'm a fighter pilot, so I enjoy the thrills of thrust and the acceleration that we're going to experience going from 0 miles an hour up to 17,500 miles an hour in a very short few minutes. Anything is possible. I never dreamed I'd be in the seat. There are plenty of smarter, more intelligent individuals that should be in the seat, but I've been blessed to have this opportunity. I'm going to take advantage of it. My name is Scott Kid Poteet. I'm the mission pilot for Polaris Dawn.
Mission Specialist Sarah Cooper Gillis is a lead space operations engineer at SpaceX, responsible for overseeing the company's astronaut training program.
Sorry, I can't hear you, Joe. Are you muted?
How's that?
Yeah, there you are.
Okay. I was just saying that one of the things that they were showing at that kids little montage was they were jumping off the 10-meter platform at the Air Force Academy as part of their water survival training, and I did that at the academy as a cadet, so it's pretty cool. You think 10 meters, no big deal, 35 feet or so, but it's quite high when you're standing up there jumping off of it.
Yeah, that does sound high. How much do you have in common with Kid?
As far as like the training that we did?
No, your experience and stuff. Yeah. I mean, yeah, like just, yeah.
I'd say we're pretty similar. I mean, we both went to pilot training. We both flew the same planes during pilot training, and that would have been T-37s, T-38s. We did the same life support stuff. Parasailing, we had to do that to learn how to do parachutes. Did the altitude chamber so you could get learning what your symptoms are for hypoxia. So I think a lot of that is very similar. I predominantly flew tankers, but I did get a chance to fly, obviously, with the T-38, but also I flew F-16 a little bit. And you have, your G suits and learning how to do something called the L1 maneuver, which is basically squeezing your body to try to get the blood to stay up into your head. And as the G's come up, learning how to deal with that. You had the 0G flight, and when they were recovering, it was maybe a couple of G's. So you felt that. Just imagine it at like 6, 7, 8 G's. It's a lot.
That sounds sickening. Actually.
Yeah, it was actually funny. When I was a cadet, I got a chance to go to Korea, and I got an F-16 ride when I was a cadet, and I had a camera. I was going to take pictures, and every single one of my pictures was like blurry because as I was taking the picture, we're pulling G's, and I kept, the camera kept coming down. So all I saw was this green lights, which is part of the displays, kind of just flashing, streaking through the camera. For every single picture.
Let's see if we they put that stupid music on it.
No.
Well, sorry, I was just trying to. Hey guys, did you know I did a 0G flight? This is like that right there. I was like, uh-oh. I was like, I'm feeling sick. There's a reason that I was like trying to just hold on to the wall and not move at all. And then after that, I started barfing. Yeah. But this is what it looks like. Space mosh pit. That's That's funny. See, Commander DJ Burp, you're lucky. Good morning, Ellie from the UK. I'll watch this with my eggs and bacon today. You're well rested. You don't mind that there's a 2-hour delay. No big deal. Thanks for joining us. And thank you, Rodney, for a super chat. Here's a couple of bucks to help Ellie keep bringing us great content. I do appreciate that. Been doing, I did a live stream for Starliner, and here we are back streaming live. And so I am really hoping that we get a launch today.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are. It's just unfortunate that the weather is so bizarre right now, and it's ironic that they are confident enough that the splashdown weather is good enough 5 days from now that they want to launch, and now it's the launch weather that's keeping them down.
I know. Oh my gosh, sorry. This video is just, it's too funny. There's one of my friends, Scott Walter. He's wearing Apple Vision Pro doing 0G. Crazy. Actually, you make a point that I wanted to talk about, Ellie with the space hair. So I've made a few videos about Starliner, and one of the prevailing comments, and it's honestly kind of pissing me off, is about Sunny's hair. And I have just seen endless comments about, oh, why isn't she wearing a hair tie? That's disgusting, blah, blah, blah. You guys, I mean, not you guys. I'm sure you weren't the people leaving the comments, but I don't know why this is like new. Like, look at my hair. It is floating. And so it's like, it's so strange to me. I don't know why people are, ragging on her hair so hard. But anyway, just wanted to vent, just want to get out there, like 2 a.m. here. Okay. So like, this is what happens to hair in 0G. And I don't know why people are picking on Sunny. Okay. So I gotta stand up for her. That's kind of cray. Anyway, you don't read all the comments on my video, so you don't know, but I'm telling you, there's been probably 100 comments through the various videos I've done about Starliner, which, by the way, Starliner, back on Earth, humans still in space.
Yeah. So what do you think about that?
I think that, I mean, I'm sure for Butch and Sunny, it's a nice extended stay. I don't think that they're particularly upset about it. They're astronauts for a reason. So getting that much time in space is probably pretty exciting. Obviously, Starliner came home pretty nominally. So I think they could have come home on it. And in a way, since they are test pilots, they might have been okay with taking that risk, which was very small, but because of that internal disagreement, there was some disagreement. So I think that what I like is that people were able to speak up and express concerns and have that internal dissent. And it means that we've learned lessons from tragedies in the past, like Challenger and Columbia. And so, it's like people were saying, oh, now the headlines are going to be that NASA's gone soft, but it's like, dude, better safe than sorry. So, I guess at this point, I'm very curious what's going to happen with the 2 astronauts that are grounded. But I think, if there was any amount of substantial concern, they did the right thing.
Yeah. I wonder, and I'm a little bit worried that everything is kind of like a pendulum. So, they made their choice to go to send the Starliner back unmanned because there was another option that they could use. And they talked about Columbia and Challenger and the culture within NASA at that time, which caused people not to speak up or people being overruled. And those things were disastrous. In this case, they took the inputs of all those people. They made a decision to be as risk averse. I mean, to minimize the risk as much as possible. They sent it back. Everything went fine. So I'm hoping that there's not going to be a lot of stress or talk within NASA saying we were too risk averse. Right. Maybe we should have made a different choice, and maybe it starts the pendulum back where you know, and the next time in the future when something like this happens, they're like, well, you know, with the Starliner, it came back okay. So in this case, we'll just do it again. So I hope we haven't learned the wrong lesson from this, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and obviously, like, the whole thing is just a disaster for Boeing. So that's still quite embarrassing and, you know, problematic. And I mean, the fact that Boeing wasn't at the presser was, you know, even Eric Berger, who I'm going to interview here soon, was there. And he's like, I wanted to ask these questions to Boeing, but they're not here. And so they haven't been at any press conferences. And apparently that's, you know, NASA's decision, but it doesn't look that good. And it was interesting. He said that there were chairs that they had that were empty and they moved them, which kind of indicated that maybe Boeing was supposed to be there and decided not to show.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard, he had also mentioned, Eric Berger had mentioned that unlike the previous couple of press conferences where NASA told Boeing, we don't want you to be there, they wanted to keep it just pure NASA when they were making the decision what to do with the Starliner. This time it was Boeing that told NASA, we don't want to be there. So I think that tells us that there's a lot more, I don't know, animosity, discussion, hurt feelings, whatever underneath the surface. And, you know, I have a feeling that Boeing thinks, hey, look, we had a good ship that could bring back the astronauts and you guys went against us. You didn't listen to us. And look, everything went fine. I'm sure that their reputational hit and the money hit that's going to be on their books and what they have to do to get the Starliner ready for the next, whatever the next thing is going to be. I think that played a role in it. It's just unfortunate because, you know, this is such a high stakes thing and we do need to have more capability to take people to the ISS and just space in general. And, you know, it would have probably been good if they could put those feelings aside and Boeing show up and just answer the question and move on.
Yeah.
You know, and before this, you know, after the decision was made to come back uncrewed, but before they came back, NASA was asked about the contract with the Starliner. Basically, the contract could be up to 6 flights, but NASA had only committed to 3 of them. I think it's the permission to proceed or something like that. So they've only contracted for 3. And they were asked, well, are you going to go for all 6? And NASA said, we're not going to comment on that. So I think there's still a lot to kind of work out that we're going to find out over the time. Probably the first thing is just find out what happened with the Starliner, especially on the return. Was it as clean as it looked? Were there some other issues? And then what are they going to do to fix the thruster issues and the helium issues? And then after that, it'll be, do they need to recert a flight? Do they use it as cargo? What happens? So that's going to play out over the next several months.
Well, Allison makes a good point, and thank you for the super chat. And wow, a woman is watching our channel. That's great. NASA is on 1 ball. Apollo 13, 2 strikes. Challenger and Columbia. They can't afford a 3rd strike, which is why the crew is still on station. And to add to that, thank you for the super chat, Allison. Christopher says, I lost a friend on Columbia. You can't imagine how horrible that was. Everyone lost someone on that shuttle. The people who died were a great group of people. I was waiting for the landing. Wow, I'm so sorry for your loss, Christopher. That's terrible. And it's nice to see, you know, if there, like we were saying, if there's concern, for it to be taken seriously and listened to.
Yeah, like I said, I hope that the experience through this particular situation doesn't have NASA learning the wrong lesson. And what I mean by that is, you know, hey, we accepted too much risk with Columbia and Challenger. With Starliner, we accepted not enough risk. So now we need to go back to accepting more risk. And then there's going to be that interplay of, you know, maybe I should say something, maybe I shouldn't. So I hope we didn't unlearn what we've learned and that we can continue to to make the right decisions moving forward.
Right. Wow, that's so interesting. There's only 200 people watching on YouTube. That's it? All the rest of our 1,000 viewers must be from X. That's pretty crazy. I'm just going to shamelessly share the link on X just because we have like a long time. I'm trying to think of like a game that we can play. Yeah, some people are saying that they're gonna tap out, they're too tired, but I'm like, no. The worst will be if they, scrub it. Man, I can't believe I'm it was supposed to be no earlier than July 2024. When I interviewed Jared, gosh, back the day after the Starship launch, so it was June 7th.
Right.
He was like, yeah, it'll probably be in July. And here we are, September 10th. Wow.
Yeah. Well, a few things happened. One was the upper stage, so that hurt, and I think they had already slipped a little bit, so they had to unground the Falcon 9 for that one, and then just scheduling, and then the booster, and then of course now we have the booster. Actually, ironic thing is if they had not had the helium leak, then they would have launched, and the booster that didn't land correctly wouldn't have been launched.
Wow.
They only launched that because the Polaris Dawn kind of slipped. So they thought, oh, okay, well, we can slip this one in because we don't have the same landing weather constraints with that mission.
This is nice. We have a this diagram or this little illustration here.
Yeah. Well, this kind of brings to a different subject, but as far as the Starship Flight 5 and the attempted catch and a lot of the activity that's going on at Starbase to prepare for that, first people want to know when is Flight 5 going to be, and that's a great question, but it's most likely going to slip into October. And I saw that Elon was on I think it was All Spaces or all whatever meeting today, and he was saying, regulatory approval is what we're waiting for, and I don't think that was completely honest because there's no way in the next few weeks they could launch even if they wanted to, because the chopsticks have been getting reinforcements. We saw during some of the testing that the tower itself was both bending and twisting. The bending is not so bad, bending meaning that it's in one direction. The problem is the twisting, and it looks like SpaceX was concerned enough that the skates and the rails might
for
detach.
Starship Flight 5 where
Sorry, hold on. Just trying to add some B-roll. Okay, there you go. Go ahead. Okay, now we're talking about Starship. We're talking about Starship, everyone. I want to have.
Hey, well, that the whole return thing kind of was there, but you see that mechanism that holds the chopsticks and it kind of wraps around the tower. Well, as the tower was twisting, those rails and the skates that they're on look like they could actually detach. So that would be catastrophic. So they've been adding some more possible reinforcement along the tower where that catch is going to be to maybe prevent those from detaching if it twists too much. And it twists when the chopsticks kind of come together. So, I think that they're looking at that. They've been doing some gusset plates additions to the tower to get it stronger. And then, of course, the chopsticks themselves are being reinforced. And and Christopher's right. They're not only big, but they're very massive. And they also have a pretty long lever arm. So that means that they stick out quite a bit. So there's a lot of momentum getting them move and to stop. And then that translates to the tower, and it translates to the tower via that mechanism that kind of wraps around the tower and slides up and down on the skates and rails. So, anyway, so I think that they're working through that. They're going to have to get the test tank back out there and do some more slap testing and drop testing to see how all that works. So I don't think, even if they wanted to right now, I don't think they could launch for another couple of weeks at least So that puts us pretty much to October anyway. So
Right. Keith, thank you for the super chat. Good morning from Houston. I guess it is morning. Do we know approximately when the EVA is scheduled? It's going to be on the third day, but now with, 2 hours later, probably sometime late Thursday.
I'm not sure. I don't know if we have. In fact, I'm pretty sure we don't have a day by day, minute by minute schedule. They just had some rough ideas, but a couple of hours is something that they could easily work on. If it's days of slip, then it just everything slips, several days into that to that future. But third day, sometime I would imagine that once they get on orbit and they start doing their stuff, we'll get more updates on that.
Well, Crunch, thank you as well for a super chat. You're watching Apollo 13 Survival, so got to go some of the way. Enjoy that. We will be here. Indigo wants to know, did we cash in on some sleep before starting the stream, or have you been awake? I've been awake the whole time. I lifted today, I rock climbed, and I'm pretty tired.
Yeah.
I'm very tired, actually. You said you got a nap, right?
I tried a little bit, but it just didn't work out very well.
You're
so I've been up since about 5 yesterday. And I've got a dental appointment coming up here in a few hours.
What time?
What's that?
What time is your dental appointment?
8 o'clock.
Oh my God, I would cancel. You're going to be delirious, dude.
Oh, well.
Are you serious? Okay, that's
I also have a lunch appointment that has been scheduled for a while at 11.
No way. What are you going to do?
I don't know. We'll see.
I was going to say, do you need to take like a nap right now? Holy crap.
Well, we'll see. I mean, about an hour before the next launch attempt, they're going to do another one of those weather checks. So that's only about, let's see, what is it right now? 2:30. The launch attempt's at what, 5:23? Is that right?
Well, it would be 4 for us.
4:23 us. So it's less than 2 hours away. So we have about an hour before, roughly a little more than an hour before they do the next weather check.
Oh my God. Indigo wants to know what made them initially decide August, September would be a good time to launch in Florida. Well, they initially decided July. So this is like a very delayed, they've been trying to launch for a while now. They've been ready. It's not like Starship where it's like, are they ready to catch the booster? It's like, no, they've been ready, but there's a lot of logistics. It's obviously not exclusively their pad. So there's a lot of things that have to line up between weather. And right now, they're kind of under this deadline because there's a Falcon Heavy launch for the Europa Clipper.
Right. And that Europa Clipper, there was some question about whether or not that was actually going to go. Something about some electronic parts of the Europa Clipper that they didn't know if they were going to be able to survive the radiation of Jupiter when it's doing its mission at Europa. But they just, I guess earlier today, confirmed everything was good to go. And so they're pressing forward. I think that launches the 10th of October. But because it's on a Falcon Heavy, they need to reconfigure the pad and the transporter erector. And I think they need like 2 or 3 weeks before that launch. So it only gives maybe a week left before this pad needs to be cleared.
Wow, that's not a lot of time. Would this be George's? How would you pronounce this name, Joe?
George's Rue.
George's is
Rue.
George's. Okay. Well, George's says hello from France, and I bring that up because I'm going to Paris. Oh, yeah, I'm going to Paris. I actually went when I was like 10, so it'll be interesting, all these years later. But I'm pretty excited for it.
By the way, there's your answer. See, they're still strapped in the suits. There's nowhere to go.
Yeah, they look bored. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, well, you know, we were talking when it looked like they were going to launch, what they were doing, and they were thinking about the timing and the events that were happening. Now, for about 2 hours, they have to wait to get back to where they were, so there's not a whole lot happening. There's no propellant loading. There's nothing changing with the configuration of the spacecraft, so there's really nothing.
So it looks like they're just kind of what, on their iPads? Probably,
yeah. They could probably play games or maybe watch movies or whatever.
Irie wants to know who's better at Legos, you or your boyfriend. Inquiring minds want to know. I mean, I'm building a Disney castle right now. It's my second build ever by myself. My first build by myself was the space shuttle that you see behind me. And so I think I'm doing pretty good for having like no Lego experience, but he's definitely way more experienced. So he's better, but I'm not too bad myself. You know,
Do you want to hear what they're talking about? Maybe they're telling you something.
Yeah. Let's see.
Maybe we'll get some good info.
I hope so.
The weather is red right now, and we wouldn't have been able to go.
Yep. Well, you know what? It's been a good rehearsal so far. And realistically speaking, while the Polaris Dawn crew, I'm sure would be delighted to be closer to, wait, how long have we been holding now? Would they be in space now? I'm not sure. My brain is a little mushy at this point. But the point is that they would still be in the Dragon capsule right now, regardless, in their seats, most likely. So they're not really doing anything significantly different physically anyway. Now, we did, as you heard John say, we did rotate the seats a bit so that they could kind of like stretch out a little bit more to be a little bit more comfortable. So yeah, I'm guessing there's probably some like charades happening or other games involving like hand signs and yeah, so
whatever they can do while still strapped into their seats.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah,
oh, look, there they are.
There you can see them on their tablets.
All four of them on their tablets. I wonder if we've equipped those tablets with any games. I hope so.
I mean, they'd have a lot more mobility in these EVA suits to be able to play some more games in these suits versus the IVA suits. So.
Yeah, that is definitely true. Gorgeous shot there of 39A. Like we mentioned before, we are in a not quite a holding pattern because we're still progressing with the launch countdown, but we did have to reset the T0 clock due to weather, and we are fingers crossed that our second targeted T0 time will be more fruitful than the first one.
Yeah, we are patiently waiting. It is T-minus 1 hour and 49 minutes until our new T0. But yeah, the crew is patiently waiting, relaxing inside of Dragon. And so now during the EVA for the Polaris Dawn crew, they will be wearing our newly designed EVA spacesuits, which we see them wearing.
We know.
Yeah.
Brad says, I've got your feed, Everyday Astronaut and X running on different computers. Yours is the most interesting.
Awesome.
Stay with it, Brad. It's very kind of you. I have no idea how you think that, but that's very sweet. And IRRI, got your name now? Sorry that I messed it up. IRRI, got it. Good. I like this one, Benjamin. I mean, Benjamin, I've been talking about my bladder problems, but you said for the next spacewalk.
All right.
I would love to fly on a Crew Dragon. I mean, I would. You know.
Yeah. Well, you get to sit in a suit for a long time.
I mean, as long as there is an option.
Right.
Like, if they absolutely have to, they're going to go to the bathroom, right?
Yeah.
Here we are back talking about Is this why our feed is interesting?
Maybe, but yeah. But you know, to the announcer, she was saying, I'm not sure if they'd be in space or not yet. Well, their original launch time would be in 2 minutes.
Oh, that would have been so great. It was so nice.
Yeah. I know, it would have been lunch. Everything's great. Let's go to bed.
And you know what? Like, I was thinking about this. I'm like, I can't really complain because I don't have to drive to Boca Chica and get up hella early. I didn't have to fly to Florida because part of it is this thing has been so hard to pin down. It just didn't make sense. And I just had to walk upstairs and be in my office. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to stay up late. And it's like, come on, lady, do your job. So anyway,
I don't know. If it had been any other day, I wouldn't have had dental appointments and.
Yeah, you're kind of screwed. You're kind of screwed. You actually remind me. I have to tell my my group therapist that I'm not going to make it in tomorrow. There's no way.
You know, as they're showing these spacesuits, one of the things I think is sort of just amazing is the way that they assemble them is with zippers. And you think, well, how can a zipper be, you know, airproof or, you know, hold pressure? I just think it's amazing that they do that. And, you know, even on the Starliner, the Boeing suits, they had a zipper helmet. It was just, it's crazy that we can do that now.
Yeah, that is crazy. Wow.
I still think the SpaceX ones are the most futuristic and the coolest ones for sure.
They are. See if I can pull up my feed because they're playing now. They're playing the stuff we've already seen. So you know, we're getting a little desperate.
Well, yeah, they have 2 hours to fill as well.
For sure. Well, let me share my tab because I want to show you what I saw that I thought was kind of funny. These at the Spirit Halloween store.
Oh, really? Yeah.
They have Spacewalker, which, you know, includes a jumpsuit and hat. And you can see sort of like a lunar lander back here. This is NASA. And then they have this one, which looks, you know, eerily like a Blue Origin jumpsuit.
Yeah.
And I guess they have white. I mean, it's like the same suit. So, but did I get it? No, I did not. But they do have helmets. So they have this.
Oh, okay.
You can see me and my boyfriend. We are not going to be space themed people, but you'll see what we do. We're going to actually hand out candy. I've never, you know, like handed out candy for Halloween as like an adult with a house. I'm very excited for it because trick-or-treating, sorry guys, we're going off script, but like, come on, you know, trick-or-treating is so much fun as a kid. Oh my gosh, right? And so I'm so excited to like be on the other side of the coin.
Are there a lot of kids around your neighborhood?
We have a great neighborhood, I think, for there's a lot of young families here. And so we're going to like have 2 separate bowls and see if they like my candy or my boyfriend's candy better. And our costumes are kind of like, you know, they're kind of go together. So I'm excited. Last year, I did not dress up for Halloween because we went to Houston for part 1 of this. So the 0G flight that I did was a tour of Johnson Space Center with Doug Hurley, Nicole Stott, and Charlie Duke. And then like the next day or something, it was supposed to be the 0G flight, but then they had to postpone it because I guess the airspace, they couldn't use it anymore. And it happened to get postponed like months later. It was crazy, right? So even a 0G flight is like logistically, you know, very difficult, right? You can imagine a space flight. And so where was I going with that? But
that you didn't dress up.
I didn't dress up because I went to the Houston sort of tour and we had a dinner and then we were just kind of in Houston. Yeah, it was a very, very unfestive Halloween. So I'm excited to celebrate this year. I kind of wonder like what other countries and cultures think of Halloween.
I don't know. I think some other countries do it.
Oh my God. Wait, Okay, does anyone look at right here? Right here. That is Doug Hurley's son being escorted to the back.
Oh, really?
When you got sick, they would take you and they would strap you in the seats. You can see him right there.
Oh.
He's being taken, and I was taken shortly before him to go throw up in a seat.
Well, it looked like was the aircraft kind of going up and down, because it looked like a lot of you guys were, going up to the roof.
Yeah. So here's the deal. So they did lunar gravity, and they only did a few passes of that. That was manageable for me. I didn't really feel all that bad. And remind you, I took 2 non-drowsy Dramamine, and I had that little relief, band, which I don't think really worked. But after they did 3 or 4 lunar passes of parabolas, right, they did the 0G. And so you go from, 0 gravity to 2 Gs, about 1.8, almost 2 Gs. So it's like a lot of transitions, but this part was certainly the 0G. And you know what? That's one of my sort of complaints is I think they pack the plane too much. It's like it's a lot smaller than it looks in their, ads and stuff or whatever. You've seen a music video. It's like it's actually when you get in the plane, you're like, oh, this is kind of small. This is like not a lot of space. And we have like, 25 of us or whatever. It gets like, look at this, like this is like crowd management, right?
Well, I thought the same thing about the New Shepard capsule. Is there's like 6 people in there, but it's not very big, and you're weightless for a period of time, but you can see how they're all just crammed in there.
Well, and it was interesting on this past, New Shepard little suborbital space hop, they had one guy, I think he was like strapped in the whole time. And I remember seeing another one where another guy just like strapped in the whole time to look at the view. And I was like, that's pretty smart. I mean, weightless is cool and all, but I think the irreplaceable thing is really getting that overview effect, which obviously we didn't get on our 0G.
Right. Yeah. I think I would do that too. I would want to be looking out the windows and just looking at the Earth. And of course, with me, I would want to be there for a long time.
Yeah, right.
I think by the moment I'm really starting to really appreciate seeing the Earth, they're saying, "Come get back in your seat." I'm like, no.
Yeah. So that was my 0G experience. Some of it. Okay, 1 hour and 39 minutes. What?
Yeah, well, that means about 39 minutes from now, they'll do another weather check and we'll get a pretty good idea.
Yeah, how's the weather looking? You're going to pull up your... Oh, wait. I think I have it on my end, actually. Add to stage. How does it look?
Let me see if I have to refresh this. Well, I mean, it looks better than the other, before the first launch attempt, there was a blob that was closer to Cape Canaveral. The closest thing on this looks like that Palm Bay, and I'm not sure exactly how far away that is or not.
Allison says 15-minute suborbital hops or so, 1950s.
It would actually be the 60s because all of those suborbitals were in the early 60s.
Yeah.
But yeah. But I mean, just imagine back then, they not only did they not know what it was going to be like to be weightless for a period of time, but just all the technology was so rudimentary. And you talk about how brave these people are, and they are getting into the capsule and getting ready to go. But this is worlds different than, getting into essentially an ICBM with the first, I think it was either an Atlas or a Redstone. I think it was a Redstone and a rocket, and putting it in a little teeny capsule where you're basically, the astronauts use the term spam in a can kind of to describe what it was like. And it's basically, you're in, like, if this chair were the where when I'm in, I'm just strapped completely in here, and then the capsule is literally right around me. There's nowhere to go, and we're gonna lob you up in there and hope for the best. And I don't know if you watched Tim Dodd's second part 2 talk at Blue Origin.
Not yet.
Well, anyway, they went out to the launch pad, and while they were there, they were looking down at the original launch operations building, which it's still there, but they're not using it because it had a lot of asbestos and other stuff in there. But it was literally right there next to the launch pad. So can you imagine being that close? Even though it's a much smaller rocket, I mean, you could literally walk out the door, there's the rocket, and you're launching from there.
Wow. No, I have to watch it. I've had a couple of people ask me that, so I'm guessing it's worth watching.
It's okay. I mean, it was very interesting to be able to see the hardware and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But the thing that the dialogue wasn't all that great. It was a lot of Tim going, "Oh, that's crazy! Wow, that's crazy! That's huge! That's crazy!" And then Jeff Bezos talked a little bit.
I feel like that'd be me. I'd be like, "That's amazing!" I say "amazing" a lot.
Yeah.
The Blakester, my friend Blakely, who's been with the channel for a long time, big fan. If the weather is good, we're looking at getting a twilight effect on the East Coast for the first time in over 2 years. That's only if they can launch at the 5:23 window. I'm hoping for you that you can see it. I know that that's something you love to see, and it would be pretty cool if people are able to see that. He's kind of like the twilight effect expert over there on the East Coast.
Okay.
Let's see. Jonathan says, "Good luck, guys. I'm going back. I'll watch the rerun."
Oh, okay. Well, you'll have to tell us how it goes. We don't know yet.
We're just gonna go to sleep. Just gonna leave us hanging. Leave us lost in space. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, John Innsbrucker is doing the discussion here, and he usually has good luck. So hopefully that's a good sign.
Yeah.
And I'm wearing the shirt that this term came from him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was doing a broadcast, and he was trying to say it was nominal, but he said or normal, and he put them together, and he said nominal.
Oh my God, I did not know that he coined that.
But he's the guy that coined the term. So it's actually appropriate I wore the shirt then for him.
Yeah, that's perfect. There was a comment, it's way up there, but it was something to the effect of, it's a catch-22 where if we go to sleep, or wait, what was it? If we leave, it'll launch. Wait, hold on. Now I got to find it.
I think I know the sentiment is if you end the live stream and we just say it's not going to go, it'll launch.
Right. That's right.
If we hang out, it won't launch.
Well, then does that mean we need to end it?
I don't know. Do we want it to launch or not?
Where is this comment? Just so I can get it right. I'm trying to think of let's see what they're saying. Let's check in on our friends there at SpaceX.
The whole time. Again, as Atticus mentioned, we'll have live coverage, but also, they do have an EVA. It will be scheduled. They will need to follow some procedures. Obviously, the EVA is for a test. It's to test the EVA suits, but we do have some margin in there. So they might be able to get, if they're able to complete their test, they might just be able to get a minute or two to themselves to be able to enjoy that view.
Now, we are excited to watch that with them live whenever the EVA is actually happening. But for those of us who haven't experienced the overview effect personally, firsthand with our own eyes, here's a little bit more info on that phenomenon.
The overview effect is that sensation or that feeling that you get when you see our whole world from the perspective of being outside of it.
It ranges the whole spectrum from like how delicate the Earth may appear because, you know, it's only this thin blue line that separates this habitable atmosphere of our home planet to, you know, the vacuum of space.
It's hard to comprehend what the impact is going to be when I first see Earth from space. It just reminds us of how fragile our planet is. One of my roles on this crew is to shoot as much footage as we possibly can so we can bring it back and share it with the world.
The big picture awareness that you gain from that sort of perspective when you were, you know, journeying amongst the stars and see our entire planet as we know it there outside of your window, and kind of the philosophical and the many different emotions that it provokes inside of you when you see it that way.
We have barely begun our journey to explore the worlds around us. And that hit me right when I saw the moon rise around Earth and saying, like, come on, it's been 50 years. We got to get back there, and we got to get to Mars, and we got to figure out how to get out of our own solar system and try and figure out what this is all about.
There's so much incredible footage that crew members have taken from space and that you see from satellites. I think it's one of the things I'm looking forward to most on the mission is getting to see the Earth from that perspective. I can't wait to share what that experience is, but I guess I'll have to let you know once I get back.
Wow.
Yeah, you know, they're going to be able to see it from a perspective very few have ever seen it, because they're going to be, you know, when they do the spacewalk, they'll be up at 700 kilometers, which is nearly twice the altitude of the space station. And I think it's even higher than the Hubble for what the space shuttle did. And they'll be able to look out the windows when they're up at 1,400 kilometers. So they're going to be able to see much more of the Earth, much more of the curvature, the circle of the Earth than what you see from the ISS or anything else other than the Apollo guys. So
wow,
I think that's going to be incredible. And
and I asked Jared if they're gonna, live stream it, and he said that they're gonna do their best. If the comms hold up, then yeah, we should be able to kind of witness it with them here on the ground.
Yeah, well, it'll probably be in 4K. I hope it's available off of X on something else so we can see it in 4K. And what the other thought I had is if you were doing the spacewalk and you're, standing out there looking at the Earth, can you imagine what that is like? I mean, 4K is stunning, and this is going to be better than 4K. It's just going to be in your face, just glowing and super high resolution. I think it would just be phenomenal.
Yeah, it's crazy. Chris is, I guess, tuning in late, hour and a half before launch. Was there a delay?
Yes.
Yes, there was a delay.
Yeah, just for Chris and anybody else to get you up to speed is there was 3 opportunities to launch about every 2 hours starting at that 2:38, and the weather pretty much ruled out. They were actually thinking they were going to go with the first one, and at the very last second they changed and they said they're going to go with the second one. And the other thing that they're trying to avoid is they wanted to make the decision before they started prop load, because as soon as they started prop load, then they're committed to that particular one. So by not doing the propellant load, they're able to go to the second mission or second opportunity. So we have the 5:23 one, and then we have another one at, I think, 6:12 or so.
Well, and let's actually, because I'm not exactly sure who's watching our live stream right now. We're talking about once they start the prop load, they're committed loading the propellant. Let's break that down a little bit simpler for maybe people that aren't familiar with why it's not as easy to, why they have to stay committed.
Yeah. Well, once they decide to start loading up the Falcon 9, it puts into motion, various processes that go into loading the rocket. And then if they decide to then stop the launch, then they don't really have the provisions to be able to take that fluid off, and they can't really maintain it indefinitely on the rocket as well. So once they they start putting the propellant in and then they say, no, we're going to stop, then that pretty much is going to scrub it. So they don't have that capability to just sort of hold for a period of time. That's actually something the Starship has that the Falcon 9 doesn't have. If you remember that they have some holds built in towards the end of the Starship launch where they could hold upwards of maybe 30 minutes if they need to, but the Falcon 9 does not have that capability.
And why is that?
I don't know if it's the type of propellants that they're using, or if it's just the supporting infrastructure, or if it's just the design of the rocket itself.
I mean, it is different propellants. That might make sense.
Yeah, perhaps, but I don't know. It may be rocket related, or it may be the ground support related as well, because you're going to get certain amount of boil off anyway. So they may not have enough of the commodities after a certain period of time to be able to do a, defuel and then be able to take the propellant off and then put it back on. With the Starship, it seems like maybe it's because it's just so big that they're able to keep the cryogenics cool enough and replenish it because of the ground support to give them that up to maybe, I think it's about 30 minutes of holding. And they did several cryo tests and they were able to show that on some of their tests as well. But anyway, but once they commit to that, that's it. So they really wanted to avoid making that decision, and it came down literally to the last couple of seconds for the first launch window.
Well, Douglas, for thanking me, he says, thanks for your last video. I released a video today about, the Starship timeline and Elon Musk's sort of announcement about he's going to send the first uncrewed ships to Mars in 2 years.
Yeah, well,
seems a little bit optimistic, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, well, there's another aspect that maybe will work into their benefit, and it's the same thing we're actually seeing with Blue Origin and the mission that they're going to be launching here. That was going to be their first launch coming up in October, taking 2 of the Rocket Lab Mars probes, and they were going to launch it and send it over to Mars so they can do some study of the magnetic field of Mars. Anyway, that was postponed, and it was postponed into the spring. And a lot of people were saying, well, wait a minute, if the window from the Earth to Mars transit opened in October, how can they slip it to the spring and still be able to do that? And it really has to do with the delta V, the change of velocity that you can impart based on the size of the payload and the rocket itself. And in this case, the payloads are like really, really small, and they're putting it on New Glenn, which is a gigantic rocket. So it's possible that Starship, with in-orbit refilling, has enough delta V to have a longer window. So, instead of having just a 26-month period of time, and if they miss that, they're going to have to wait another 26 months. Maybe they'll be able to do it at 30 months or so. So that might give them 2.5 years. But in any case, I think it's going to be, well, we were talking about some of the things that they need to get done, demonstrated, built, and ready to do that. And to do that in 2.5 years. So, you can either just look at all of those steps that they have to do, the milestones, and are they able to achieve that and hit those windows? I think that's the best way of looking at it, rather than just saying, oh, I don't think they can do it, or they might be able to do it. It's just really they've got to do it. And this right here, this in-orbit refilling is probably the critical step, because without this, they're not going to Mars no matter what. So they have to have that.
Yeah.
And same thing with the moon. They're not going to go to the moon unless they have in-orbit refilling.
Yeah, right. I'm going to go to the little girls' room. Do you want me to just unmute them for like 2 or 3 minutes, or do you want to talk? I'll unmute them.
Okay.
Okay. Quick little bathroom intermission, everyone.
All right. See, it's a good thing you're not stuck on the Falcon rocket.
All weather rules just cleared about 30 seconds ago, so we have a green range for weather rules, and we'll have our SpaceX meteorologist fill you in for the next T0.
That sounds promising.
It's great to hear, and standing by.
And Dragon, SpaceX weather officer here. We did violate a number of launch rules for that cumulus that popped up at that initial T0, so made a good call there from the whole team, SLD 45 and all. And we are tracking a much better POV for this next T0. The elbow is tracking a 35% chance of violation, and if everything holds as it currently looks for another 20-30 minutes, we should be able to step that POV down. But overall, looking good for this next launch attempt.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
And copy that, weather officer. That's really great to know. 35% presently for POV, and should be stepping down in the next 20 minutes or so. Good to hear.
That's pretty good.
Okay, so they've told the crew that what we're just getting from the launch weather officer. The first launch attempt we had to hold as we got inside T-minus 45 minutes. A cell had popped up, and it looked like we were going to be no-go at T0, which would have scrubbed us for the morning. So instead, we held off before we began prop load into the Falcon 9. That preserved a second launch attempt coming up in just under 80 minutes from now. That T0 is planned for 9 hours, 23 minutes, 49 seconds universal time, or 5:23 and 49 seconds a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time, just about an hour or so before dawn there in Cocoa Beach, Florida. So hopefully they'll get a good view if the weather continues to dissipate.
That's awesome.
As I mentioned, we had the crew rotate seats back into the launch position at T-minus 1 hour and 28 minutes. On the SpaceX Falcon 9 side, the launch chief engineer is going through a technical readiness poll, making sure that the Falcon team is ready to pick up the count as we get inside T-minus 1 hour. Also, amplify a little bit on the launch weather officer. It's always interesting. A probability of violation, or POV as they call it, of 35%. So that means essentially 1 chance in 3 of violating the weather constraints that we would have for a launch. It's interesting. An optimist would say it's a 60% probability of good weather. You know, I don't know why we do the probability of violation, but that's a history. It's been that for as long as I have known it. The big thing that is changing is that the weather was fairly chaotic over the last hour. It's very hard to model and predict as the boundary layer was coming ashore. What they're seeing right now in the weather radar is the boundary looks like it's dissipating. And as the Corps told the crew and the weather officer amplified, we ought to know more in about 20 minutes as we get down close to T-minus 1 hour, in which case the probability of violation may actually decrease, give us an even better chance. still looking at a variety of things. The rain showers that we saw earlier on the camera lens, making sure that they've dissipated, that we don't fly through rain on the way up. We also want to make sure the big one is cumulus cloud rules. We don't want any thick, high altitude clouds in the flight trajectory. And then, of course, continuing to watch the winds, but that looks to be pretty good. And if the rain dissipates and goes away, then the electric field intensity, which is currently green and go for launch, should also stay that way. So fingers crossed that the weather will continue to improve and we get a go here to continue through T-minus 1 hour and then prop load and take it the rest of the way on down. But right now, Kate, things are looking a little more optimistic than they were an hour or so ago.
Yeah, certainly better. Hearing that we've got a 35% chance of violating the weather requirements instead of 60. That's certainly a welcome improvement. So let's talk a little bit about the research that's going to be going up. So Polaris Dawn is the first of 3 planned missions in the Polaris program, and this will conduct extensive scientific research to expand our knowledge of humans adapting, living, and working in space. Much of this research is also intended to improve our lives down here on Earth.
And like all science and research, it begins with collecting tons of data, and that process started well before today. Let's take a look.
We are in the Houston SpaceX office today. We are here for our what we call L-30 or launch minus 30 days data collection for all of the research that we're doing on our mission. We have about 40 experiments, and a number of those required data collection pretty close to launch date. And so we are doing all of that data collection today, as well as doing some refresher training just to make sure we're really sharp on all of our procedures when we go to flight.
There's a lot of steps for each one of these science experiments. They're beneficial for not only improving and enhancing healthcare here on Earth, but it helps us continue this progression with space exploration.
What Kid and Anna are doing with the endoscope up through the nose and looking down at the vocal cords, I mean, that is not something easy to perform, in a hospital environment, let alone in space. They certainly stand to learn a lot from it. Reestablishing someone's airway, that's worthwhile to know if we're going to Mars someday. But I think that's a tough one to perform in space. But you got 2 really highly motivated individuals that are going to try and conquer it.
In space, there's inflammation. We don't have the impact of 1G pulling on that fluid. So we need to better understand what that inflammation looks like. And once we have a better understanding, we can develop the procedures and the equipment necessary to handle any type of triage situation.
When we stepped into this virtual reality scenario, I think Kid and I liked it a lot because they're flying a spacecraft on Mars to kind of gather like hand-eye coordination, motor skills, some cognitive abilities now, and then they're going to compare it to post-flight as opposed to whether or not we can successfully land on Mars.
I'm going to come back in just a minute.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. It reminds me of that movie Arnold Schwarzenegger is in, Going to Mars, where he had that tracker in his nose and he had to pull it through.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, you got to see it.
I know. Wow.
Just think of like a golf ball up your nose. You got to pull it out.
Oh my gosh.
I'll be right back.
Okay. Yeah, these glass eye contacts, those look so uncomfortable. Oh my gosh. Let's see here. Michael, good morning to you. Man, I really wish that I could somehow tour the SpaceX office in Houston, as I'm not that far away from it. Yeah, a lot of this stuff looks extremely uncomfortable. They are like very badass, if I must say. Very, very brave and clearly much tougher than most of us. Let's see what else this is.
Nitrogen will bubble out into our blood. If we see bubbles, it will be completely normal and okay if we do see bubbles, but we are hoping to capture that on ultrasound.
In order for us to become multiplanetary, we've got to overcome some of these challenges associated with space exploration on longer duration missions. What we gather on orbit in a zero-G environment, in a vacuum, will help us continue this cause in furthering space exploration.
Wow.
Dragon has carried more than 1,000 research experiments to and from low Earth orbit in the International Space Station since 2012. Whether it's returning time-sensitive experiments from the International Space Station or bringing back science performed inside the spacecraft while in orbit, Dragon safely returns at home.
While docked with the International Space Station, Dragon can also act as a lab, providing extra room for astronauts to perform their work.
Right, but it will not be docking with the ISS for this mission. And, you know, that's just it's just wild to me that Jared Isaacman, this billionaire who's very nice, I've interviewed him twice, very nice man, is, you know, self-funding his second mission to space, which is not only going to change the lives of these 3 people that are with him today, but also this valuable research for all of us down here on Earth and all of us who eventually want to go to Mars. I mean, this is such a, you know, selfless sort of heroic thing that they're doing. Hey Joe, I was telling them that it's just amazing to me, you know, because I was invited to cover the Blue Origin launch and I didn't go. It would have been like a 16-hour round trip drive. It just, and you know, it's cool, but it's really most cool if you're on the flight, on the launch. Whereas this is like actually like going to do so much between their, even just raising money for St. Jude's. I mean, that's like already just a tangible, you know, like benefit, right? Mm-hmm. But the research that they're doing and like the risks that they're taking, it's amazing to me to have someone like Jared who's so generous with his, you know, good fortune to self-fund something like this. And then what they're doing, I mean, as we've said, this is not a walk in the park. This is not going to be like just some luxurious, you know, space tourism, whatever. This is the real deal.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, it's not just the science that they're going to do, which is impressive. It's not just the fact that he's going to do a spacewalk, and that's pretty cool, and learn about how to make spacesuits and doing the St. Jude's. That's all wonderful stuff, but I think it goes even beyond that, what he's trying to do and what he's showing, and that is that we can actually have commercial programs where anybody can go fly. You don't have to be, you know, one of, you know, just a handful of people that are selected by NASA and train, and you spend your entire life doing nothing but just try to be an astronaut. This is setting the stage where one day a lot of people will get a chance to go. And along the way, we'll have to figure out, how do we prepare people for that future? I mean, right now we have training, we have infrastructure, we have processes designed for a handful of people to go to space. If we have thousands of people, we're not going to be able to do the same things, you know? So how do we go to that future, and how do we get that many people up to space? And this is setting the stage for that. And that's one of the reasons why I think I'm excited about this mission, but I'm very hopeful for this mission too, because this success, it'll just be building next thing and next thing and next thing to get us to that future where if you want to go to space, you can. And, you know, so to me, that's one of the most important things about this mission.
But also, how much money does this guy have to afford this?
Yeah, I mean, it's not cheap, but I would also just remind, you know, your viewers, and even you, and I have to remind myself too, is in the past, whenever new technologies have come out, whether it's aviation or ships or cell phones or whatever, it's always people that have a lot of the money first that are able to fund it, get it, going, and then we can learn from it. And then over time, then through economies of scale and just, improving on the original designs that these people help, then the rest of us can benefit from that. And I think that's what we're seeing here again.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that, those 4 people right there, none of them are NASA astronauts. None of them grew up thinking that they were probably going to be an astronaut. And yet here they are doing this. I think that's wonderful.
Okay. So this is really interesting. This is really interesting. Because I've done, I think I made like a short when this was announced that SpaceX had it on their website that you could like inquire about a mission. Well, this is new to me. Let me know if it's new to you. It looks as though, can you see this, Joe?
Yes.
It looks as though they've updated the
Join
form.
a mission.
So before, when I would click join a mission, you guys, breaking news, at least for me, before when I would click join a mission, it would just pop up an email. Now, join a mission. SpaceX was founded to help create a future where not just hundreds, but thousands and ultimately millions of people can travel from Earth to live and work in space and on other planets. If you're interested in flying on a future mission, please fill in the form below. All fields are required. Space is open. Come explore. So first name, last name, email, country of primary residence, country of passport, financial qualification. Are you open to being financially qualified by SpaceX? Lord knows I'm not. Confirm your age. Are you 18 years or older? Mission details, destination. So Earth orbit, International Space Station, Commercial Space Station, Moon, Mars. Mission year 2024, and it goes out to 2028 and beyond. Please share any details about specific mission objectives you may have. So this is new. I haven't seen this yet. This is so cool.
How did you get to that? Where is that?
Because I'm a secret spy. You go to, it's kind of hard to find. So you go to human spaceflight.
Okay.
And then you scroll down a bit. And you go to our missions, and that's where you can click join a mission. So anyway, book your flight to start exploring Earth orbit. Seats and on-orbit research opportunities available starting late 2024. Inquire below. And if you will remember, we have the FRAM-2 astronauts training for their mission that is supposed to launch later this year. We'll see if that happens. But this is to go into polar orbit. And so I'm wondering if this, crypto billionaire who's financing that one was able to basically fill out this form and get approved. But anyway, I think that's pretty cool, you guys. I hadn't seen that form yet, and that just made my night. Made my morning. Capital J says, thanks for the stream. I'm thinking this is really important. I can't believe this is getting such low news attention, if any. Well, hopefully once it launches and we have crazy views from space, hopefully it'll get more attention.
Well, that's cool. I filled out most of it. I'm not really sure about if I'm going to put it in there yet or not, because I don't know the parameters of it.
Wait, can I fill it out?
You can. I actually had most of it. I had it all filled out, but then I did put on there because if you look at the bottom, I was trying to read that and see.
By selecting I confirm, you are representing that you have reviewed and confirmed the accuracy of the information provided in this form and that such information is not false or misleading information. This is an initial form for SpaceX to assess mission feasibility and does not form a contract of any kind between you and SpaceX, regardless of the information you provide. SpaceX may. So what? But like, is this saying like you don't have to be uber rich?
Well, see, I was thinking the opposite is at first I was thinking since it says join a mission, then maybe they would collect names of people. And if you had somebody that was like, say, Jared wants to do another mission and he goes, I want to have 3 people to go with me, they would pick from it. And I was originally thinking it. But then as I read through more of that, I was thinking, well, maybe they want me to be the Jared and I have to be the one funding it, you know? But I wish there was a little bit more info.
I mean, does it hurt to just...
It says, if you're interested in flying on a future mission, that almost implies that there is a mission that, you know, exists, and it's like you're buying a ticket.
Yeah.
Versus me making the mission, paying for the mission.
Yeah, right.
But no, it's actually cool.
Well, you know, it's pretty interesting.
Well, this is exactly what I was getting at. And, you know, not to highlight my story or whatever, but I wanted to be an astronaut and I did all the stuff to try to become it. And I never got a chance to do that. And I always thought that was just kind of, you know, bad that I lost out on that opportunity. But programs like this and stuff what Polaris Dawn is doing to help spark that and seeing, you know, hey, join a mission, that gives people like me hope that maybe I could still do it. And,
yeah,
you know, that would be cool.
100%. I hope that you get to do it. You deserve it. You do. I mean it.
Well,
I'm being sincere.
I would love it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I don't know. I think I don't think it's far-fetched to believe I might go to space someday.
You could.
Some way, somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, it'll definitely be through companies like SpaceX, maybe Blue Origin, something like that have the capabilities to offer all of the support infrastructure to make it happen. I don't have as much faith in government like NASA looking into the future, especially after reading some of those Inspector General reports. And it sounds like they're initiating a couple more. One of them is on the spacesuit development, and I think there's another one. And you can almost see the writing on the wall that they're going to come back with a report very similar to what we saw about the Gateway, the SLS Block 1B, and that launch tower, is that they are behind on schedule, way over budget, you know, and I just don't see how that's going to be sustainable financially.
Yeah.
I don't see Congress continuing saying, okay, sure, we'll give you another $10 billion, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about Lego earlier, and I was at the Lego store, and they just came out with, like, you know, some NASA stuff, a Milky Way set, and they have like the NASA SLS rocket. And I'm like, what? Why don't they have like SpaceX, you know? Like for Legos.
I don't know.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like a SpaceX rocket would be like more realistic and exciting.
Yeah. Do you think that they need to get trademark or anything like that from SpaceX to be able to do it?
Yeah, it might be that. It might be that. But I was like, I'm not super optimistic about SLS, and I like Legos, but I don't know.
Yeah. By the way, we're less than an hour from launch.
Should we listen?
The T0. So we're getting close to that point. Maybe it doesn't, I don't know. We'll see what they say. It doesn't look like they're talking about, hey, we got weather, but we're real close to that point where they're going to start making that decision again.
Let's check in.
The spacecraft, the crew were helped by our closeout team to get in their seats, those seats that you see there, attach their suits to the special umbilicals that provide breathing air and communication link to Dragon systems. They conducted successful leak checks and communications checks with the core here in Hawthorne. And that is the person who they will be speaking to directly throughout the mission. That stands for Crew Operations Resource Engineer.
Yeah, and the closeout team was able to seal the hatch, which also gets its own leak check. And the closeout team has already departed the pad. Once that hatch was sealed, they were able to clear the area and clear the pad. And now we've been doing some weather checks as we got closer and closer to T0. So Again, we will be doing another final go, no go for launch. Before we get to that final go, no go, the next team will do an internal poll, making sure that conditions are right with Falcon 9, Dragon, the crew, the range, and the weather, of course. T-minus 1 hour until liftoff is the final evaluation checkpoint, or the last opportunity for the SpaceX team to adjust the launch time if it's needed. And with everything so far on track, let's take a moment to meet the crew that will be flying today.
The Polaris Dawn mission has many time objectives, so the Polaris program chose a crew of experts who know each other well and have a foundation of trust that they can build upon as they undertake challenges of this mission. Mission Commander Jared Rook-Isaacman served as commander of Inspiration 4, the world's first all-civilian mission to space. Jared holds
for a weather update.
Okay, here goes the weather. We'll see.
Yes.
Go SpaceX.
Dragon, we are currently go for launch. Updated probability of violation is 20%.
Awesome.
So with that, we are going to be pressing towards T02. We'll keep you updated if any other weather comes through.
Yes.
Yeah, it's great news.
Hey, copy that.
You can see that they're excited too. They're like, "Yay, finally!"
Yeah.
No, this is really great news.
So as we just heard, our opportunity for launching is sounding better and better. The probability of violation for weather rules has decreased from 35% probability to 20%. So that is excellent news. Now, let's talk a little bit about our mission commander, Jared Rook-Isaacman. He served as commander of Inspiration 4, the world's first all-civilian mission to space. Jared holds several world records, including 2 speed around the world flights in 2008 and 2009 for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. He has flown in over 100 air shows as part of the Black Diamond Jet team, dedicating every performance to charitable causes. In 2011, Jared co-founded what would become the world's largest private air force, Draken International, and that trains pilots for the U.S. Armed Forces. In addition to his role as CEO of Shift 4, Jared is an accomplished pilot and astronaut with over 7,000 flight hours.
Mission pilot Scott Poteet served as mission director of Inspiration 4, and he goes by his call sign, Kid. A retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel, Kidd served for 20 years in roles that included commander of the 64th Aggressor Squadron, Thunderbird No. 4 demonstration pilot, U.S. Air Force Weapons School graduate, operational test and evaluation pilot, and flight examiner. Kidd is a command pilot with over 3,200 flying hours and has logged over 400 hours of combat time. Following his Air Force career, Kidd served in various roles, including VP of Strategy at Shift 4.
Mission Specialist Sarah Cooper-Gillis is a lead space operations engineer at SpaceX, responsible for overseeing the company's astronaut training program. She helped prepare NASA astronauts for the Demo 2 and Crew 1 missions, and most recently directly trained the Inspiration 4 astronauts. Sarah is an experienced mission control operator who has supported real-time ops for Dragon's cargo resupply missions to and from the International Space Station as a navigation officer and as a crew communicator for Dragon's human spaceflight missions. In 2015, while studying at the University of Colorado Boulder, Sarah started an internship at SpaceX before moving into the astronaut training program full-time.
And to cap off the Polaris Dawn crew, mission specialist and medical officer Anna Walker-Menon, who also serves as a lead space operations engineer at SpaceX, where she manages the development of the crew operations and works in mission control as both a mission director and crew communicator. During her time at SpaceX, Anna has led the implementation of Dragon's crew capabilities and developed critical operational responses to vehicle emergencies. Prior to SpaceX, Anna worked for 7 years at NASA as a biomedical flight controller for the International Space Station. She received her bachelor's degree in mathematics and Spanish from the Texas Christian University and her master's degree in biomedical engineering from Duke University.
And that is our Polaris Dawn crew and the first SpaceX employees to fly on a SpaceX mission.
Hell yeah.
Anna and Sarah also supported Inspiration 4 and actually served as trainers for the crew of that mission. So I can only imagine how incredible and the feelings that they have and how wild it is to experience a launch from the other side of the mission. Now, as the Polaris Dawn crew prepared for this mission, they had a pretty cool opportunity to sit down with a legend of spaceflight, Apollo astronaut Charlie Duke, one of only 4 surviving moonwalkers from the Apollo program. He flew on the Apollo 16 mission to the lunar surface in 1972, and more than 50 years later, he had some great advice for our crew in advance of the first ever commercial spacewalk.
We have a launch commit and we have a liftoff. The swing arm is moving back. I can see all the way to the ground, just like on the LTV. Piece of cake.
Welcome to our mission.
Yeah, we've
control.
only got 4 Apollo
Get down,
astronauts
Eagle.
left.
You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.
What emotions run through your head as you watch that?
For Apollo 11, it was really tense. Yeah, the tension in mission control was through the roof. You know, I was more tense in that landing when I actually did it. Because, you know, in the spacecraft, you were seeing all the systems, whereas in mission control, you're just looking at a little screen. You know, and ours never were this big. They were just little things. First off, I want to say thank you for inviting me to come out and get a briefing from y'all and maybe throw a little piece of advice every once in a while to you.
You're one of the 12 humans in history that has gotten to walk on the face of the moon, and now you're sitting here at SpaceX. I'm curious what your aspirations, your hopes, your dreams are for the future of human space exploration.
Well, I'm excited about the privatization of space. When it first came about, I was a little dubious, but then it was quickly obvious that SpaceX knew what they were doing. And I've been a big supporter of what SpaceX is doing in space, and manned and unmanned launches. I'm impressed with this facility, and the first time I've been here.
Well, sir, it is a real honor. It is a real honor to have you here and have this conversation. Polaris Dawn, sir, is the first of up to 3 missions that are contemplated. So we're going to vent down the vehicle and conduct a spacewalk. And we're going to test out a new spacesuit that the engineers at SpaceX here have been developing. It's to learn really as much about this new generation suit that SpaceX has built, and then the entire operation associated with it. I'll be one of the crew members that goes outside the vehicle. Sarah will be as well. And then Kit and Anna are going to be inside the vehicle in kind of supporting capacity and be the eyes and ears of while we're outside.
Is that visor assembly separate from your... It's all integrated.
Yeah, it's a spiral waist zipper that we don and doff the suit.
It's important to have a suit that works. I mean, it's mobile and fits.
Sir, based on your training experiences, what was the most memorable thing you went through?
Let me cover something that's very similar to y'all's, and that's the Trans-Earth EVA.
Are you ready, Charlie? Roger, copy. Looks like the old move.
Both the Apollo 15, 16, and 17 had no problems with the Trans-Earth EVAs. They're very spectacular. I mean, the view, that was my most impressive memory, really, is to float out. And there was the Earth down here about 180,000 miles away. And my job basically was hook myself in so I don't float off and hold on. How long are you depressurized?
So for the spacewalk, based on the vehicle design and what we can support, we have about 2 hours end to end for both depressurizing external operations and then repressurizing the spacecraft. But we'll all get suited up, depressurize the spacecraft, and then 2 people, one at a time, will go outside, come back in before we repressurize the spacecraft.
My advice is don't let go. I wish you well. Thank you.
You know what's incredible is listening to them talk, the 4 Polaris Dawn crew members, the way they talk, the way that they're very, like checklist oriented, like Sarah was answering there, okay, it's going to be 2 hours from when we start the depressurization. That just reminds me so much of flying and being in the military and the way we always approach missions. And it's kind of cool to see that with commercial,
So, how do you think that they decided, since it's only Jared and Sarah that get to go out, how do you think they narrowed that down? I mean, obviously Jared, he's self-funding it, so yeah.
I think that they wanted to have one crew member from the Polaris program. That would have been either Kid or Jared, and then one from SpaceX. That would be either Anna or Sarah. So since Jared was doing it, that meant it would have to be one of the two SpaceX. And I don't know if they, arm wrestled or whatever, but it's pretty cool. I think, if they could depressurize it and have 4 hours or so, they might be able to get everybody out there. But I think that, they couldn't do that. And they also wanted to probably minimize the risk by only having half of them. It gives you two people that are still in the capsule that could help out in case something happened as well. So,
well, why don't you also explain for us, the timeline of the spacewalk and how long the various processes take? It's not just, it's not simple.
No, it's not like you just put your spacesuit on, open the hatch, and go out and do stuff. The biggest thing is it's going to take several hours, a long period of time to try to denox your system. And that means that you slowly reduce the pressure and you start getting rid of the nitrogen in the air mixture that you're breathing. And that will help get that nitrogen out of your blood. And, that takes a period of time. And one of the things that they're going to try to do with this particular mission, and by the way, we're about a minute. Let's hear what John says. We're about a minute before they go to
launch director has also checked with the Dragon mission director for their readiness. Everything continues to look good. We're going to be hearing some instructions from the SpaceX launch director. He'll be making announcements on the control room lockdown and protocols for hold or launch escapes. And he'll also be reminding the team that inside of T-minus 10 seconds, only the computer can abort the launch. Now, once the LD, the launch director, gives these instructions, they will clear the team to proceed with moving the crew arm away from the launch vehicle. You can see the arm is in the access position right now, but once we get...
Pull is complete and the team is ready for crew access arm retract, propellant loading, and launch. Both control rooms will go into lockdown at T-minus 45 minutes and remain in that state until the launch escape system is disarmed. All operators are remain at their console and maintain a sterile cockpit until MD confirms successful disarming the launch escape system following orbit insertion or propellant offload in the event of a scrub. For non-urgent no-go conditions, brief the C or LD and they'll approve during the countdown. For urgent issues affecting the safety of the operation, operators shall call hold on the countdown net. Launch control will abort the launch auto sequence immediately and proceed into the launch abort auto sequence. At T-minus 10 seconds, launch control will be hands-off, relying on automated abort criteria for the remainder of the count. Operators advise the launch director whether structural breakup or fire is imminent or occurring per Dragon manual escape flight rules. Launch control, you may proceed with arming the crew arm for movement.
We've heard the instructions. We're waiting to hear them inform the crew that access arm retract has started. We're also watching on the monitors as we see the crew access arm, waiting for it to begin into motion.
There it is, starting to move.
And once we get through this, then we will be arming the launch escape system. And there's a view.
Access arm retraction has started.
Crew access arm retraction has started. Once that's all the way back in the stowed position, we'll arm the launch escape system, proceed down to propellant load starting at T-minus 35 minutes. One other update, weather. Probability of violation, as we mentioned, down to 20%, and they just checked with the launch weather officer. Nothing appears to be in the area that would be a risk to T0 in just over 44 minutes.
Awesome.
Okay, looks like we have a good shot.
Yep. So,
and Jesse, you can see crew access arm starting to come back now.
Yeah, this is a very exciting moment here. This is one of the last major visual milestones that we'll see in preparation for liftoff. And soon we should also hear the call out that the
Crew
launch
access arm retraction is complete.
Woohoo! And great call there. that is the conclusion or completion of the crew access arm retraction. We should also hear the call out for the launch escapes.
Dragon, you are go for Section 6. Close visors and arm the launch escape system.
Very cool.
Copy that, SpaceX. We are stepping into Section 6. We're going to close visors and arm LES.
Oh my gosh, this is crazy.
There it is. They're getting ready to arm the launch escape system.
I think
and
one of
the
those
crew is
moments
closing their visors, which
they
you can see
realize,
there.
hey,
This
this
is
is-
preparation
this
for
is
that
different
arming
than,
of the
you
launch
know,
escape
this
system.
could actually
And
happen.
then also coming up will be Falcon 9 prop loading beginning.
Yeah, we can see their tablets there on their legs, strapped on top of their
SpaceX
suits.
Dragon, Section 6.2, our visors are closed, and we are proceeding with arming LES.
This is crazy.
SpaceX copies.
It is. Come on, this is crazy.
So those tablets that they have provide all the information that they need for the mission. The crew, as you can see, reporting that they are ready for the next steps, reporting that all their visors are closed. Arming of the launch escape system now coming up.
So if you could be on this crew, which would you be? Would you be the mission specialist on either side, or
We're
would
just
you-
waiting for the call out.
Launch escape system is verified armed.
I'd say a specialist. Yeah, I don't.
I'd be
Copy
the
that,
pilot.
SpaceX. We show the same.
I know you would. I don't. Yeah, I'd be a specialist.
That's good
SpaceX
news.
Dragon, we're closing out 4.100.
4.100, reference
Actually,
to
the
a
current loading will happen in
4.100.
35 minutes. At the 35-minute
is
point.
running on their tablets. So with that, the launch escape system is now armed. Should something happen that requires Dragon to execute an emergency escape, if something were to happen to the Falcon 9 or the pad right now, the system is ready to go.
Okay.
There's another key reason. Once we got the crew access arm back, we went right into arming the launch escape system, because once that system is armed, should we need to have the crew leave but depart via the crew access arm, that arm took a minute or so to retract. It can actually come back into the support position much faster than that. So there's a high-speed mode. That high-speed mode requires that we be in the armed configuration so that it'll be enabled. So if that was needed, the crew could then leave the hatch, go down the arm, and depending upon the direction, they can take the elevators. The elevators are currently at level 255. When the ground team left the pad, they send the elevators back up. So if the crew needs them, they're right there. And of course, we have the slide wire basket system on 39A is another way. So there's several ways if the crew had to leave. But the good news is, coming up 40 minutes before launch, everything continues to go well, technically, on Falcon 9 and Dragon. And it looks like the weather has begun to cooperate now.
Hopefully.
Yeah, it's only almost 4 in the morning.
I don't know. I'm getting pretty excited about this. I feel like a second wind has hit me, but
I think
prop load will start in about 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay.
And that's obviously a big milestone too. But I think this is their best shot to get this going, and I think everything is lining up. So they really wanted to press forward. Hopefully there won't be any system issues between now and launch.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Perfect timing, Indigo.
Yeah, right. Perfect timing. And thank you to Brad for sharing my stream. It says I have about 1,900 viewers, but most of them, I believe, are probably on X. So there's not very many people watching on YouTube, but it also is, I'm competing against, SpaceX and NASA spaceflight. So,
well, if you're over in Europe or so, I mean, it's like late morning. It's nice.
Yeah, right. Kind of rush through it. But there are, escape options. If something were to happen while they're still on the pad, there are several ways apparently for them to escape. And one of them, it sounded like a slide.
Yeah. So the primary one would be the actual Dragon, flies off with the astronauts, but there's another way they can bring that crew access back, and they can actually bring it back in a fairly quick way. They could get in that, run over to a part of the tower, and there's two options. If it's not super critical, they could try to take the elevators. But if it's really critical, they have these kind of slide systems that you can get into, and they already have the cables and all that set up, and you'll get into it, and using just gravity, it'll pull you away, and you'll rapidly get away from the tower. And the whole idea is to get as far away as you can as quickly as possible.
Now, is it my understanding that they've never actually had to use that slide system
for like a abort or something? I don't remember any time where it's actually been used, because there was a problem with the rocket and people got into it and got away. But it is there in case you need to use it. We have that same thing with air traffic control towers. It's a way that they can get out of the tower in case there's a fire or something. And when I was a commander of a squadron, I had the air traffic control underneath me. And part of the thing is that periodically they had to test out that system. So I got a chance to do it. And it's actually pretty fun.
Really? Wow. That is pretty cool.
I actually have a video of me going into it.
My gosh. So you said around 35 minutes we should.
At T minus 35 minutes, the prop load will begin.
All right. Let's see what they're talking about.
And then we'll also hear call outs on Ascent.
Yeah, and the core is keeping them updated so that they, there's going to be new sounds coming inside of the vehicle, and the core can keep them updated, since they won't be able to see what's happening, but they might be able to hear it. So they'll be able to monitor, those familiar sounds or those expected sounds as the core is updating them with each milestone.
I think this is when they say that.
Now, our next major event, as we mentioned, is the start of propellant loading onto the Falcon 9. We'll hear that starting at T minus 35 minutes. We also may hear the call out launch auto sequence has started. That is the ground computer program that controls the last 35 minutes. And we should also, as we mentioned, hear the launch director call out to the crew that propellant loading has begun. Propellant loading sequence on the Falcon 9 begins with loading fuel onto both the first and the second stages. That's the RP1 kerosene fuel that we use. We'll also begin with liquid oxygen loading onto the first stage. Now, the second stage fuel loading will finish up fairly quickly at about T minus 20 and a half minutes. And then 4 minutes after that, we'll begin loading liquid oxygen onto the second stage. But right now, T minus 35 minutes, 30 seconds. Everything continues to go well. We're waiting for the handover from the countdown master sequence to the launch automatic sequence to begin propellant loading. Once that begins, that'll commit us to a launch early this morning here at Pad 39A in Florida.
Yeah. And then after that, the first real big visual thing that you'll see is at 20 minutes when there's the 20-minute vent, and it'll be a big amount of vapor coming out, and that's because they're getting ready to switch over and start filling the second stage.
And great call out there. We just heard that the launch auto sequence has begun. This means that propellant loading has begun on Falcon 9. Now we are T minus 34 minutes and 45 seconds from liftoff. Dragon was loaded with its propellants about a couple weeks ago, just a few miles down the road at what we call Dragon Land. In order to fly, Dragon needs a fuel and an oxidizer. And for the fuel, we use monomethyl hydrazine, or MMH, and nitrogen tetroxide, or NTO, for the oxidizer. Now, together, these propellants feed the Draco engines that maneuver Dragon on orbit, as well as the 8 Super Draco engines that would power the launch escape system in an abort scenario.
And again, now that fueling for Falcon 9 has started, that means the 8 Super Draco engines inside Dragon are ready, if needed, to launch the capsule away from the Falcon 9 rocket in an instant, should there be any kind of emergency associated with the rocket or the pad.
Yeah. Barney, it's been about
now. Some of you,
how long?
Barney's asking how long have they been sitting there waiting for liftoff? Well, the initial, getting in there and then waiting for the initial T0 and then the scrub or the change to the second one is they've been sitting there for about 2.5, 3 hours already.
Oh no! And they still have Way more to go.
30 minutes for launch and another hour or so until they get into orbit, to the point where they can probably be maybe an hour and a half before they're stable enough that they can, get out of their suits.
Has peed. Someone for sure has peed at this point. Come on.
For accelerating Falcon and Dragon through Earth's atmosphere and into space. To do that, it has 9 Merlin engines at the bottom of the stage. Prior to liftoff, the Falcon 9 first stage is loaded up with nearly 1 million pounds of fuel and liquid oxygen. At liftoff, the Merlin engines use these propellants to provide the first stage with a thrust greater than 5 747 airplanes at full power. These engines consume about 700 gallons of fuel per second. The first stage accelerates the vehicle through the Earth's atmosphere into space, and then separates from the rest of the rocket at just about 2.5 minutes into flight. From there, the first stage will do what no other orbital-class rocket in the world can do. It will make its way back down to Earth and target a landing on our drone ship. Just read the instructions, which you can see there on your screen. And this drone ship is currently parked and holding position a couple hundred miles downrange in the Atlantic Ocean. Our drone ships are essentially autonomous powered spaceports, and they allow our rocket to land offshore. For reference, our drone ships are about the size of a football field, so while they may look small on screen, they're actually pretty big in real life. Reusability is a critical part of our goal of making life multiplanetary. And to that end, we're working toward qualifying our fleet of Falcon boosters and fairings to support up to 40 missions each. As mentioned previously, Falcon 9 is a 2-stage rocket, and above the first stage is the second stage. The second stage has a single Merlin vacuum, or MVAC engine, and this engine ignites after stage 1 separates from stage 2. The second stage is essentially a smaller version of the first stage, and while the first stage gets us out of the Earth's atmosphere and away from the extreme forces of gravity, the second stage is designed to operate in the vacuum of space and deliver payloads, like Dragon today, to their target drop-off orbit. And of course, we have a great team here at SpaceX that will be monitoring both Falcon 9 and Dragon after liftoff.
This will be an interesting one, since they're going to go to a higher apogee of 700 kilometers initially. It's probably going to, be lit a little bit longer than we see with normal missions that are going to the ISS.
And once they launch, how long do you think the coverage will be?
I think once they get on orbit and they've separated the Dragon and the Dragon trunk combined unit away from the upper stage, they'll probably want to get them into probably I don't know if they're going to go into a sleep schedule or whatever, but they'll probably want to give them some time to adapt, because at least half of them are going to feel bad. And it's going to take a period of time to get through that. So I think they're going to want to give them some private time to get through all that and get ready for the mission.
Right. Wow. Yeah. I mean, gosh, I can only, understand, as far as I felt terrible during 0G. I mean, truly terrible. And I don't mean to be dramatic about it, but I point it out because, if they feel bad, it's really inescapable. And, I guess hopefully they can adjust. But this is not as glamorous as I think some people might think it is.
Yeah, no, they're truly remarkable people that are doing this. But on the same token, is if we're going to start opening this up for a lot of people, the work that they're doing to try to figure out how to do that space adaptation syndrome and overcome it and have options is very important.
Barney wants to know, are they able to sip water or drink at all right now, or no?
Are they, or they have to wait? I'm sure they could if they wanted to. I don't know. I'm not sure what the spacesuit has as far as maybe like straw or something, or if they have that provision or not. But it is kind of a good question of what they have the ability to do while they're sitting there and waiting, because you want everything strapped in and packed away before you do the launch. So good question.
Oh, wow. They're playing the same video again. Okay.
Yeah.
St. Miles wants to know, do you think they'll have live coverage since they will communicate via Starlink. I asked Jared personally. He said that, they're going to do their best.
Right.
So,
yeah, I think they have a shot of having a lot better coverage than what we've seen in the past because of that whole Starlink thing. And I think I don't know. We saw with the Starship coming down with the Starlink being able to go through plasma. I'm sure they can figure out something with a capsule just floating in space.
Yeah, Lee says, can you imagine how surreal it must be for them right now? I'm like getting goosebumps and sweaty hands just thinking about this. And I'm, certainly not in their position. What do you think they have as space food?
I think a lot of it is that prepackaged, probably dehydrated stuff, or anything that's simple to keep packaged and doesn't make a mess.
Yeah, right. Be nice if they could show us what they have.
I'd almost think it'd be like military rations or something, maybe a little bit better than that. But when we would be on deployments, you get this bag and inside it's got everything prepackaged, and you had enough calories of what you wanted to eat, but it wasn't always the best stuff.
Oh my God, this is such a good comment. Tin Man says they have Starburst, Milky Ways, and Mars bars, which of course is not true, but that's
that's cool.
That's pretty good. You win with that one. Yeah, the farthest out we've been in a long, long time. I mean, this is a big deal. This is very, very exciting. Listen, they have seriously been training longer than they had anticipated, right? This mission has been delayed not just since July, but really for a while now. And so when I talked to Jared, when we talked to him in June, it was like this sort of bittersweet because now they've really, really become a family. And it's like they've spent so much time together. Of course, like they want to do the mission, but once it's over, it's going to be probably, an existential crisis. Maybe it's just a big moment.
Well, I don't know. I've been, all around the world and all kinds of different circumstances with crews, and you bond and all that. But then eventually, that you're going to move, go away, but you never really go. I mean, if I were to just meet up with some of the people I haven't seen in years, all of a sudden it'd be like no time has passed and we just talk about stuff. It's kind of a neat situation, but these four will be sharing something that is quite unique, and it's going to keep them bonded for the rest of their lives.
Right.
But because of the Polaris program and because SpaceX wants to continue to build their astronaut programs, and Sarah and Anna are going to be a big part of that. I'm sure they're going to see each other often.
Yeah, right. Totally.
And I don't know what the plan is, but Jared's becoming an experienced space commander. Kid's going to have experience. Why would we not think that they are forming the core of an astronaut corps for SpaceX, and then they will continue to train and build that.
Right.
Use them.
100%. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to take this as my last opportunity to, go to the restroom. I know you're probably making fun of me. I would never make it in their shoes, but I'm going to turn up their volume and just go one last time. So
the good thing is we're about 5 minutes away from the T-minus 20-minute vent, and we'll see a big amount of
protect the crew inside the spacecraft while also allowing them to leave the spacecraft when needed.
Upgrades include new joint designs that remain soft until pressurized while maintaining mobility, improved thermal management, and an upgraded helmet with an exterior coating that acts like a sun visor, along with a camera and heads-up display that provides information on the status of the suit during the spacewalk.
Let's take a look at the making of the suits that our crew will be wearing during the first ever commercial EVA.
An EVA suit is an extravehicular activity suit, which is a spacesuit that can go outside of the spacecraft to do a spacewalk. We started with the IVA suit that we have, the intravehicular activity suit, as a kind of starting point, and looked at it and said, what would we have to change about this to be able to support a spacewalk? So the first is mobility. The crew will have to do a lot of moving around inside of Dragon to get outside and do the spacewalk. We had to add in new joints and new features in the suit to allow them enhanced mobility while the suit's pressurized.
When a crew member is pressurized in the suit, the soft portions of the suit become rigid. They need actual flexure and rotational joints to allow them to move around. It's kind of like a suit of armor made of fabric. We innovated in flexure joints to allow easy bending at the elbows and the knees, as well as a collapsible rotator joint that exists on the shoulder, which allows the suit to remain nearly fully soft, but when pressurized is a rotational bearing.
The difference between the IVA and the EVA suit is that on the IVA suit, the zipper system location is in the inseam. But since we needed to have lots of mobility on our EVA suit, that was not their choice. By moving the zipper system from the inseam to the waist, we mitigated risk of the stress of the zipper.
And another big element was also the thermal side of things. The crew is obviously exposed to a much more extreme thermal environment during the EVA.
Okay, we already heard this. I'm back.
Awesome.
Ellie in space is actually very down to earth. Well, it is 4 a.m, so I'm losing my my inhibition here because it's getting very late. But we're so close. This is
the closest they've ever been to launching.
Yeah, this is crazy.
And like I said, about 2 minutes, the next big milestone is that vent, and that just means that they've finished up most of the first stage, and now they're starting at the second stage. That's pretty cool.
And another very kind compliment from Julian. I don't get bored here as much as some channels.
Oh, well, that's good. Well, thank you.
Keep it real. I try to engage with like the audience, as much as I can. And I think hopefully that makes a difference because I want you guys to feel like we're watching it together. And because we are, quite frankly, we are. Man, they've played this like a lot at this point. So.
Yeah, well, it's always got to fill the time. And when you get an extra 2 hours you weren't expecting, imagine if it had slipped to the next one.
Yeah, for real. No. Don't say that. Barney says this is worth staying up for. I agree. Ellie, will we get any future videos in Spanish? It's not a bad idea. Perhaps. I am certainly not great at Spanish yet, but could be interesting to do just a little short clip.
Wow.
Now, bearing witness news, Ellie after midnight. Yeah, I haven't stayed up this late in quite a while. So took some iced coffee, and that's why I went to the bathroom again. But now I feel good. Now I feel ready to rock and roll. Ellie, where'd you get your chair? This was actually sent to me as a sponsored thing. Ewin Racing. So it's actually pretty comfortable. I do like it, but I also sit on my feet, and I'm kind of weird like that. Okay, St. Miles wants to know, who is that hosting with Ellie?
That's me, Joe.
Joe Tagmeyer and I have co-hosted every single Starship launch together in person on the roof of Margaritaville. And Joe knows a hell of a lot more about the technical side of space than I do.
Yeah. By the way, the T-20 vent has happened. So
okay, let's go back.
I'm kind of cheating on a different view over here, but I can see it happening. So that's a great sign.
Oh, why aren't they showing us?
I don't know.
What the heck?
They're showing
this will be the first time we do it in space.
Oh, we don't want to hear this. We already heard it. Oh yeah, we see the progress bar. What the hell, man? Well, I can't pull up the feed that you're probably looking at because I don't want to get copyrighted.
Right.
But you guys love the interaction between us. So,
well, needless to say, we know that that's happening. That's a great sign. So that means that they are finishing up with the first stage, and now they're starting to work with the second stage, which means we are really getting close now.
Yeah. And Taneka is watching all the way from Australia.
That's
Ellie,
awesome.
you're interactive with your audience. We love you. I love you guys too. Channel's been going really well. It's very exciting. I feel like I might actually make it as a YouTuber. You think I'm kidding? That's exactly how it feels. We're watching together. I don't know why they're not showing us this. Okay, well, they're still showing us stuff we've already seen, but we are less than 20 minutes out, which is pretty nuts.
Yep.
If
And
you stay
weather
awake-
seems to be doing good too, which is great.
Yes, if you stay awake with us and see this, you're seeing something truly incredible.
This
Historical.
is definitely historic.
Lee says that, Joe, you have been so valuable to the street.
Thank you.
That many O's almost sounds like sarcasm, but I don't think it is. You are
like, you've been so
so valuable. So valuable, Joe. Yeah, you are.
Thank you. You know that I'm coherent because it's way past my bedtime.
You make a good point. I might have done, because I did some deadlifts, I did some intense climbing, so I'm tired from that. But you've been up way earlier.
There you go.
Okay.
Dawn. This mission will fly higher than any Dragon mission to date. There'll be lots of research experiments performed while the crew is on orbit. And most notably, they're going to perform the first ever commercial spacewalk. We're super excited to see the clock continue to count down. The crew is in their seats. The vehicle is actually being loaded with propellants as we speak. That began at T-minus 35 minutes. The launch system is armed, and we have gotten the okay to go from the crew. They are ready to go to space.
Yeah, it's super exciting. We've got their new EVA suits on board with the crew. This will be the first time that we've ever flown these EVA spacesuits, which I think is
LOX load has started.
Woo!
Cool.
Which I think is one of the most exciting parts about this mission. And we did get a good call that stage 2 LOX liquid oxygen loading is now beginning on the vehicle.
That's cool.
Now, this mission will orbit Earth for about 5 days. And in addition to the first commercial spacewalk, it'll be the first time that we will be utilizing our newly designed Skywalker hardware, which I love the name. And it is a mobility aid that Sarah and Jared will use in their EVA suit testing during their EVA. So we are very much looking forward to the launch in just over 15 and a half minutes now. And everything so far looking good. We had much improved weather conditions when our first T0 occurred was 12:38. Wasn't so great. Here we are sometime later, and we're looking at a 20% favorability. So as you can see on your screen, like I said, about 15 minutes from the liftoff of Polaris Dawn. Lots of excitement building here in the building in Hawthorne, just outside of Mission Control. Now, I can only imagine what the crew is feeling as the clock counts down. Now, as we all wait together, let's hear from some of the crew of the Inspiration 4 mission as they reflect on what they were feeling just before their mission liftoff.
I gotta say, right now, launching, people always ask me if I was afraid as soon as the engines lit and started taking off. And I was like, no, I was ready. But for me, liftoff was really about concentrating on my job as the mission pilot. And I was wondering, because you guys, were able to kind of sit there and enjoy it and sense it. How was it for you?
Launch was the most fun I've ever had. I was just so excited, and people had been asking me, like, are you going to be nervous? And I thought I would be, but I just, again, I kept waiting to get nervous, and it didn't come. And then they're counting down from 10, and I remember saying, let's do this. Oh. And I might have had an expletive in there too. But then, we're hearing the 10 count, and it's delayed because of the delay from Mission Control. And so we're hearing like they're on maybe 2 whenever we're actually lifting off.
Right.
But Jared was giving us his own count, and I remember he said something like, "All right, guys, get ready." And then we felt this big jolt, and then of course a lot of G forces that came on really quickly. But it was just so smooth, and I remember I had the biggest smile on my face. Like I was having so much fun.
I remember that.
And for me, it wasn't just sitting there idly going for a ride. It was thinking about, okay, what am I hearing? What's that pressure I'm feeling through my chest? Because this is happening probably just once, right? And so how do you share this? How do you tell someone what you're going through in this moment if you're not paying attention to everything? And so that's what I was really trying to do was, look between my toes at the window or look over at your screen, Cyan, and see, where we are.
I was wondering if you could see how much you could see, because I couldn't see out the, I was laser focused on listening to Jared and watching the monitor. And I was surprised at how smooth it was, because I was expecting for it to be a little bit more, where the monitors are going like this, but it wasn't at all. But I always wondered, did you look between your toes and see? Could you see out?
I don't think I did. I remember right before we launched, just seeing it was very dark. But I don't think we could really see anything except darkness.
Yeah, I don't think we really could see anything and it wasn't until we got into space that we made our first orbit around it, where the sun was, rising from the other side of the Earth, that we actually got our first light from the sun enter the capsule.
Yeah. Yes, and I remember saying out loud, "Is that the Earth?" And obviously, what else would it have been? But it was just so unbelievable. I had to say it out loud.
Nice.
Interesting comment about first light. We'll be launching about an hour before sunrise at Cocoa Beach, Kennedy Space Center. But as they head into orbit, I wonder how long it'll take before we get sunlight into the capsules. They're heading northeast towards the sunrise.
Yeah, the crew is certainly prepared for some pretty amazing views on Ascent. We just heard from the Inspiration 4 crew about some of their experience with their launch. I absolutely love hearing them describe just how smooth the ride is. That's always so surprising to me. We have 9 M1Ds, 1.7 million pounds of thrust, but yet somehow the ride is still smooth. That's just amazing.
I was actually just looking back at my Inspiration 4 liftoff notes in my handy dandy notebook. And Sarah, who was our mission specialist on the far right-hand side of your screen there, was actually the core for liftoff of Inspiration 4. So I'm sure she's having a great 360 moment.
That was a beautiful launch, by the way. They had that jellyfish effect, and it was a gorgeous launch.
The twilight effect is what some people refer to it as. And it looks like there's over 1.3 million people watching this on X, not on my feed, duh. But on SpaceX's X feed, they have over 1.3 million. And then here on SpaceX's website, which is from where I'm streaming it, it's a separate audience, and that's 591,000 viewers. So
let's hope that the stream stays good.
But it's great to see so many people tuning in, and then you have obviously the other feeds, like me and others. But yeah, wow, we are
great.
Almost 10 minutes out. So let's see.
Yeah. About 3 minutes, we'll start getting engine chill. So that's another milestone.
Okay.
I think, being a SpaceX employee and seeing this happen just got to be exciting as well. I mean, you built this stuff, you worked on it. And
talking to the crew, configure crew displays, and give them the farewell message.
Enjoy the journey and go safely.
Oh my God, I've got goosebumps.
To our SpaceX family, thank you. Today is all of our mission. You are launching with us. So many more SpaceX crews have gone into the stage. This is the dawn of a new future in space.
Wow. 9 minutes.
Coming up on T-minus 9 minutes and counting. Displays are configured for launch. We've heard from the crew. Core is giving them the ready to launch message. Now coming up here as we launch, you're going to hear some call outs, possibly stage 1A or mode 1 alpha. These are abort modes that just let the crew know as we're flying what they should be prepared for in case they had to execute an emergency escape from the Falcon 9. Don't expect that, but they are trained, and that's when you hear 1A, that means they've lifted off. 1B, you might hear, that'll come late in the ascent as we're throttling down the Merlins on the first stage. And then when we're on second stage, you'll hear 2A and eventually Shannon, which is a call out for Ireland that tells the crew that they can cross the North Atlantic. And then finally we get into orbit and everything gets disabled and Dragon will separate. But right now, coming up on T-minus 8 minutes, everything continues to go well.
All right.
Oh my gosh.
We're getting really close now.
At T-minus 7 seconds, we should hear the call out that stage 1 engine chill has started. At this point in time, when we hear that, we'll know that we're beginning to flow a little bit of the super chilled liquid oxygen through the first stage engines. This helps to basically pre-chill the engine hardware prior to the full flow of that super chilled liquid oxygen. This
agree,
helps
Chris.
the ignition sequence and helps to avoid any thermal shock to the hardware.
Wow.
At this point in time, Falcon continuing to undergo its propellant loading operations. Standing by for the call out for that engine chill initiation.
This is so crazy.
Yeah.
This is so crazy. Oh my God. I just like get the chills.
Engine chill has started.
That's awesome. So that's another great sign.
And great news there. As Kate mentioned, engine chill has begun. And we are loading propellants on Falcon 9's first and second stage. Second stage propellant loading for RP1 has completed. We're getting close to wrapping up propellant loading on stage 1. And while RP1 will be completed around the T-minus 6 minute mark, liquid oxygen loading will continue on both first and second stage as we get closer to the T0. So we should hear a call
Stage
out.
1, RP1 load is complete.
That's a good thing.
Stage 1, RP1, or the fuel for the Falcon 9 vehicle has completed on the first stage.
Yeah.
Wow.
Getting pretty close.
Coming up next at around T-minus 5 minutes, we should hear a call out that Dragon has transitioned to configure for terminal count. This is similar to the startup phase of the count for Falcon. It's essentially when the vehicle takes over control of the count and starts to operate on internal power and on internal computers. Of course, Falcon 9 enters the startup phase at T-minus 1 minute, and Dragon will transition to configure for terminal count at T-minus 5 minutes. Got a great view right now of both Dragon on the left side of your screen and our 4 crew members on the right. We are now approaching the final minutes of the countdown here.
Very cool. And just think, they have Fram 2, another one, maybe by the end of this year. This is pretty cool. And then Axiom is sometime early next year. So 3 commercial flights in the next 6 months or so, 6-8 months.
Falcon 9 tanks are pressurizing for strong back retract.
Awesome.
Dragon is in configure for terminal count.
Okay, it's on internal power. Soon
We've
we'll
heard the
start
call
seeing
out. Dragon's
open.
configured for the last 5 minutes of the count. We're also pressurizing the second stage propellant tanks, first stage tanks. The strong back retract will be coming up next.
Yeah, you can hear the venting. This is where they say that Dragon kind of comes alive.
Yes. It sounds like it's breathing.
Strong back is retracting.
Thank you, Brad. We tried.
All right, so there's that call out. We should begin to see it retract slightly from Falcon 9. LOX load continues on both first and second stage. Fuel loading is complete on first and second stage.
I'm sure the astronauts hear that sound.
We expect the LOX load to complete on first stage
really starting
at
to hit.
T-minus 3 minutes and complete on second stage around T-minus 2 minutes.
And we do try and load the liquid oxygen as close to T0 as possible. This keeps the liquid oxygen is at cryo temperature, so keeps it as cold as possible, which allows it to be as dense as we possibly can keep it while we're loading the tanks. That allows us to get a little bit more liquid oxygen into those tanks. And as Kate mentioned, at T-minus 3 minutes, we should see stage 1 liquid oxygen loading completing. And at T-minus 2 minutes, that will be stage 2 liquid oxygen loading completion. And once we hit that T-minus 2 minute mark, that will conclude propellant loading for Falcon 9. We are coming up here just about 10 seconds or so for that call out of stage 1 liquid oxygen loading.
Ah, this is like way crazier than it's
3 minutes. All right.
It's crazy that I know Jared. I know someone on this rocket. What the hell?
Yeah, it's kind of cool. It does make things different when you actually know the people.
Okay, there's the call out.
Dragon is in terminal count and on internal power.
Dragon's on internal power. First stage, propellant tanks are loaded. Next major event, approximately T-minus 2 minutes, liquid oxygen load completes on the second stage. After that, at about T-minus 1 minute and 30 seconds or so, we will tell the crew to expect loud venting as we depressurize and drain the lines up the side of the strongback.
All right.
And then as we get down inside the last minute 45 and then 1 minute, we'll get Dragon into countdown. Falcon 9's computers will go to startup.
All right. 2 minutes now.
What the fuck?
Waiting for the call out now for liquid oxygen.
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
And there we go. LOX loading complete on second
All right.
stage.
Fully
All
fueled.
major propellant activities are complete.
Here comes the ground.
Dragon is in auto idle.
Dragon's gone to auto idle, one of the states in its flight computer.
Fingers crossed.
We'll begin venting down the
Gas
lines.
closeouts are starting. Expect loud venting.
There we go. So the plume you see coming off of the strong back here, that's normal. As we come up on T-minus 1 minute, we'll hear Dragon computers in the countdown, Falcon 9 computers in the countdown, flight termination system armed, and then we'll hear the goes.
All right.
Let's listen into the last 66 seconds of the countdown.
All right. Should be in startup.
FTS is armed. Falcon 9 is in startup and is now controlling.
Dragon is in countdown.
Okay. Next thing is to see if we get the go for launch.
Dragon, SpaceX, go for launch.
All right, there you go.
Send that SpaceX.
Wow, 30 seconds.
T-minus 30 seconds.
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh, this is crazy. All right, it's happening.
T-minus 15.
Oh my god.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6,
5,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Copy, 1 Alpha.
All right.
Vehicle switching downrange.
Zeta 1 propulsion is nominal.
Went right into the clouds. All right, it's doing its roll maneuver. Starting to
T plus 35 seconds into the Polaris Dawn mission. Flying crew on board Dragon and Falcon 9 to new heights.
All right.
Ooh, I've got chills.
Power and telemetry nominal.
That's a great
And we're throttling down in preparation for max Q.
Oh my god.
Should be getting ready to go supersonic very soon.
Next call out. Vehicle supersonic.
They look calm.
That's
And there on the left side,
this is
we got the Polaris Dawn crew.
Supersonic.
Great call.
Yeah, thumbs up.
Thumbs up from the pilot on the left side there.
Max Q.
That's Kid that's giving you the thumbs up.
God, I'm so happy.
We're
for
throttling
you.
back up to power.
One Bravo.
That's a cool.
We heard the call out, one Bravo.
Copy, 1 Bravo.
That just tells the crew what would happen should they need to initiate anything. But right now, everybody making nominal callouts on Falcon 9.
Yeah, this is cool. It's starting to get up high enough that we'll start seeing that exhaust.
Nice views from the ground camera and nice views from inside Dragon.
MVAC chill is underway.
That's awesome.
The announcement lets us know we've begun the final chill of the second stage engine in preparation for its activity coming up at about T plus 2 minutes and 40 seconds.
Okay, we're about 25 kilometers of altitude left before we get to MECO, so it's coming up quick.
Wow.
2 minutes into flight. Everything continues to look good. We'll have in half a minute 3 major activities: shutdown of the 9 Merlin 1D engines, stage
Stage one,
separation,
throttle down.
and then ignition of the second stage engine.
So very close to
Throttle down. We're holding a constant acceleration now for the crew, just below 4 Gs.
Actually, they're keeping the
coming up 70
MECO's
kilometers.
A little bit later, they're putting a lot of performance into it, which is for their desired orbit.
Preparing for MECO.
There's
Main engine cut off.
2 Alpha.
Stage separation confirmed.
Awesome.
Copy, 2 Alpha.
MVAC ignition.
Very cool.
As you can tell
Awesome.
by the cheers behind us and the views on your screen, the first stage booster now on its way to attempt landing on Just Read the Instructions.
Woo.
Second stage there on the right-hand side of your screen.
Yeah,
See
they
the
put a
first
lot of
stage has not
performance
yet
into
reached
that
its apogee.
before they did the MECO.
What was that?
They actually held on into the booster. They used a lot more of its performance than what you normally see it, because it was well past 65. It was in the 70 kilometer range before they had MECO. So that's pretty cool.
To make its way up to its apogee. We'll see that altitude.
Yeah, the booster is at
down.
150 kilometers in altitude. That's about 30, 35 kilometers higher than normal.
Great news there, indicating that the second stage trajectory is looking good.
It looks awesome. You can see how fast the speed is coming off on the booster. It's getting closer to its apogee, but it's going quite high and much higher than normal.
Well, on purpose, right?
Yes. I think it's because they want to get that high orbit, 700 kilometer orbit. So they really need to get it moving.
Wow. Okay.
Attempting to land on our drone ship. Just read the instructions.
This might be the highest boosters ever gone. I mean, it's 100.
Our next event coming up will be the entry burn, taking place around T plus 7.5 minutes. This burn will utilize 3 of the engines on the first stage. That helps to slow the booster down as it re-enters the Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah, normally they would be, about 150 kilometers for the second stage, but you can see they're approaching 200 kilometers already and about 10,000 kilometers an hour. So they're about 1/3 of the way to the speed that they need.
1/3?
They got to get to 27,000 for their orbital velocity, maybe slightly more. So it's got a lot of work to do.
Well, they look like they're just chilling.
Yeah, pretty smooth ride. They're just riding on that MVAC.
Like that's
and the boosters already hit apogee. The boosters now coming back down.
Right.
Everything continuing to look good for second stage there on the right-hand side of your screen. Beautiful glow with that MVAC engine nozzle.
Yeah, we don't have the trajectory that we can see what's happening with the second stage, but I think they kind of went up and now they're probably just skimming across the Earth, not getting a lot of altitude, so they can use the gravity to help give their speed in addition to the engine. And the perigee of the orbit is about 200 kilometers. So what they're doing right now is they're pretty much flying, tangential to the Earth and just trying to get as much speed as possible. And that's going to expand the apogee out to that 700 kilometer. So for a while, we should probably see that altitude staying about the same and the speed just getting really fast.
We can see the crew remain with their visors down in the locked position. That'll remain that way until they are in orbit.
Yeah, there's definitely a different trajectory, different orbital insertion than we've seen before. And that's clearly because of the orbit they're trying to go to. So you can see how the altitude on the right is still staying right around 200, but the speed's rapidly coming up. So if you imagine like a circle or an ellipse around the Earth, they're just extending out the apogee all the way out to 700 kilometers. But when they do that, the perigee stays the same. So you're actually just pushing out one part of that ellipse and keeping the other part about the same. It's just sort of how the orbital mechanics work.
By the
Booster is now below the Kármán line, so it's getting close to probably another 20 kilometers. And you start seeing I'm getting ready for that entry burn. I'm hoping we can get a good landing out of this one,
All right,
too.
standing by for entry burn begin on the first stage, there on the left-hand side of your screen.
All right, entry burn. Should see it going to 3. So it should be like a line. There we
And
go.
right on time, you can see on your left-hand screen that the entry burn has begun. There's 3 engines lit on that first stage vehicle.
Okay.
And this is about a 29-second burn and helps slow the vehicle down as it's re-entering the Earth's atmosphere.
Okay, there we go.
There you can see that the engines have now shut down on that first stage. That concludes the entry burn.
You can see on the right-hand side
about
how
this
fast the speed
with the
increasing.
stage 1 vehicle returning back to Earth is we get to fully utilize the atmosphere. The atmosphere actually
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
the atmosphere actually scrubs about 70% of the velocity on the vehicle. So we use that entry burn to help slow the vehicle down. Then we utilize the atmosphere and the drag from the atmosphere to slow the vehicle down. And then we do have one single burn for the landing burn.
Copy, Shannon.
Okay. The booster's approaching.
And next up will be SECA 1. And that is second stage engine cutoff 1, and that'll be on the second stage. That MVAC engine on your right-hand screen.
You see how
will
fast
shut
they're
down
going.
and allow the vehicle with dragon attached
They're
to
very
coast.
close to SECO and very close to.
And there's that shutdown.
There you go. And then now we're going to
The
see.
landing burn on the first stage should be starting up here momentarily. And there it is. Landing burn has begun for
Dragon SpaceX nominal orbit insertion.
Dragon SpaceX launch escape system disarmed.
There's so many voices right now.
Copy that, SpaceX, and we show the scene.
And a lot of events happening right there, but you can see that the stage 1 vehicle has touched down on just with the
Awesome.
instructions. A very excited crowd there.
Outstanding.
Here in Hawthorne, we've also confirmed
Awesome. That's
MVAC
looking into the
engine
trunk
shutdown and
of the,
insertion.
and that black area is the bottom, kind of the shield of where the heat shield is for the Dragon capsule. And what we'll see is on the right-hand side, that altitude will start going up, the speed will go down, and then the altitude should go all the way up to about 700 kilometers, and the speed will drop off probably to about 2,500 or so.
Okay.
And it's just now we're working our way uphill towards apogee for where the Dragon capsule is right now.
Right.
We might catch a glimpse of the 0G indicator. Can't quite tell if they. Oh, it looks like it's in the upper right-hand corner.
Oh,
It'll
yeah.
come back into view here.
You can see something by the knee on
Once
the
again.
upper left floating.
Yeah.
I think that's their 0G indicator.
Yeah, which knee?
The kind of the one by the window. There's something floating right by the boot.
Oh.
See it? See it moving a little bit?
Second stage is
Whatever that
basically
is.
safing itself in preparation for the separation
That's cool.
from the Dragon trunk.
Yeah, so I
Of
don't
course,
think
the
they
trunk
need another burn. They've already got the orbit where they need it to be, so they'll just do the separation, which is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
The trunk is what will help provide power to the Dragon capsule while it is on orbit using its solar arrays.
Not only that, but the trunk has got the Starlink module that'll be used for the laser.
Clear view of planet Earth there, our first of many for this mission.
That's awesome.
That's like a pretty stunning clear
And the next
picture.
event coming up will be the separation of the Dragon from the second stage.
Very cool. You can see how the altitude is increasing and the speed's decreasing, and that'll continue for a while.
Right.
This is so thrilling to be able to see this and just
I believe this view here
realize
yep,
the historical.
we can see it separating from the second stage. A gorgeous view. You can see that Polaris
Dragon
Dawn.
separation confirmed.
Yeah.
And copy that, SpaceX, and show the team.
Holy crap. That's crazy. That view.
Polaris Dawn.
It's awesome.
Flying free.
But also
into the sunrise.
the clarity. I mean, holy shiza.
Yeah.
This
And
is
look,
incredible.
yeah, and they're getting their sunrise.
Now at T plus 13 minutes and 5 seconds into the mission.
That is awesome.
This is crazy.
Just think, 13 minutes ago they were on the ground.
Yeah, and also tell me that space is fake. Come on.
Today you embark on a journey not just for yourselves, but for all of humanity. Each of you has trained tirelessly and prepared rigorously for this moment, the moment where we reach higher into space than ever before. As you gaze towards the North Star, remember that your courage lights the path for future explorers. We trust in your skills, your bravery, and your teamwork to carry out the mission that lies ahead. Know that the entire team back here is with you every step, watching, supporting, and cheering you on as you walk into space. We are sending you hugs from the ground. Godspeed, Polaris Dawn crew. May you make history and come home safely. Now words from our CE.
Dragon, CE, welcome to orbit. The Falcon team is honored to have helped you start your incredible journey. We hope you enjoyed the ride. The whole SpaceX family is looking up to you. Godspeed and good luck.
LD, CE, message received. We appreciate the kind words. We wouldn't be on this journey without all 14,000 of you back at SpaceX and everyone else cheering us on. We appreciate it, and we're going to get to work now.
That is just amazing.
Some really nice words there from our tonight's launch director, Frank Messina, who, fun fact, was also the launch director on Inspiration 4, as well as chief engineer for this mission, Jared Metter. Really nice to see some endearing, or hear some endearing words up to the crew.
I agree.
Well, and with that, the Polaris Dawn crew, they're now in orbit.
That is
T plus 15 minutes, and they are scheduled to spend up to the next 5 days in space.
All right.
We heard that tone for a minute. We thought we might hear from the crew, but they're going to spend the next 5 days in space before splashing down off the coast of Florida.
The Polaris Dawn crew is the Polaris Dawn mission is the first mission in the Polaris program that will demonstrate new technologies, conduct extensive research, and ultimately culminate in a flight of SpaceX's Starship with humans on board. All of this while continuing to raise funds and awareness for important causes here on Earth. You can learn more about the Polaris Dawn program and the Polaris program at polarisprogram.com.
This mission will fly higher than any Dragon mission to date, attempting to reach the highest Earth orbit ever flown for a crewed spacecraft, breaking the record set by Gemini 11 half a century ago.
The nose cone.
And there it looks like we can see some nose cone separation action happening.
Very cool.
The Polaris Dawn crew will also
You
be
see
the
the
first to
Skywalker,
test the
yeah.
Starlink laser-based communications in space.
Over the course of the mission, we'll be checking in periodically with the crew. Next up, Dragon will initiate a 2-day pre-breathe process to prepare the crew for their upcoming spacewalk, and that'll be this Thursday, September 12th.
Dragon SpaceX nominal dehumidifier activation and service section Draco checkouts, and nose cone open is in progress.
So far, everything
Captain SpaceX, we are tracking
well.
Yeah.
Really well.
And again, that's Thursday, September 12th for that spacewalk. So please be sure to tune in for our live coverage of this historic milestone.
Yeah, we will.
And of
I just hope
course,
it's not
we
2 in the
will
morning.
also be back to bring you live coverage of Splashdown when the crew returns back to Earth. You can stay on top of any potential live events from the crew by following us on X at SpaceX.
And keep tabs on the mission with the Dragon Tracker at SpaceX.com.
All right.
With that, it's been a great early morning. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you back here soon.
Cool.
Okay, SpaceX.com/follow Dragon. Let's see what that is. /follow.
Yeah, I think when I last looked, it had like a little map, and it shows where the Dragon capsule is currently in its flight path.
Was there a hyphen in that? /follow. It was this, right? Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is so cool.
See, right now they're over the Atlantic Ocean approaching
Dude,
Ireland.
this is sick.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That is so cool. Okay, so everyone, if you want to follow this, SpaceX.com/follow-dragon. Have to shout out some of my super chats that I did not shout out. Al, thank you for the super chat. Support St. Jude's Children's Hospital astronaut Anna Menon. Written a children's book, Kisses from Space.
Yep.
I got my grandchild a copy, well illustrated. Go Polaris Dawn. And thank you, Ellie in Space. Thank you for watching. Pamela, thank you so much for the super sticker. Hildar, thank you for, I'm not sure what currency this is. NOK? You know?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. Some of these I was able to get to. Let's see. Commander DJ Burp.
Kroner, Norwegian Kroner, maybe?
Super chat for a morning coffee, which I did drink some, and now I'm gonna make a quick recap video and then somehow go to bed. St. Miles, thank you for the generous super chat, contributing to the continuing of Ellie in Space. Juan is loving this. This is inspiring. Time to return back to SpaceX. Chris, thank you. I've appreciated your comments during this live stream. Thanks for the super sticker. Neil, will there be higher capacity crew cargo versions of Dragon, or will it be superseded by other vehicles? That's a good question.
Starship.
Yeah. Yes. Barney, thank you for the super chat. Great to watch these launches along with Ellie and Joe. Julian, thank you, Ellie and Joe. Great coverage. And Scott Carr, space is for the government. Elon, hold my beer. Cowboy hat and kid, they have gone flat.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah, it's SpaceX is just truly amazing. And they're why I have a job. And I'm so glad that it launched, that we didn't have to wait even longer.
Yeah.
Because we could have been in for an even longer night. And just thank you guys so much for sharing this amazing moment in space flight, in history, and for humanity. I will plan on live streaming the September 12th spacewalk this Thursday, although hopefully it's not in the middle of the night again. But I think we probably want to be up anyway to see it. So thank you, Joe. I'm going to let you go to bed.
I have to get up in 3 hours.
Yes. So thank you, everyone. Go about your day, go to bed, do whatever it is you need to do. But thank you for watching and choosing my channel for at least a little bit if you were able to hop in. And I guess the coverage continues.